Art and Social Sciences. Now let's have a sneak peek at what's in store for us today. As we embark of the second day, let us approach it with the same open-mindedness that made yesterday more rewarding. I encouraging you to challenge your perspective, embrace new idea and forge connection in this session. Dear participants, we will start our event this morning with our third forum, where we shall deep dive into skills for future of work. I am pleased to introduce our moderator, Mr. Nazrul Aziz, Vice President Graduate, Diaspora and Industry Partnership, Talent Corporation Malaysia Berhad, Talent Corp, and call upon all the panelists. Mr. Nazrul Aziz, the floor is yours. Macam? I boleh sekalian masuk. Okay, I will announce. Dear participant, we will start our event this morning with our third forum, where we shall deep dive into the skill for future of work. I am pleased to introduce our moderator, Mr. Nazrul Aziz, Vice President Graduate, Diaspora and Industry Partnership, Talent Corporation Malaysia Berhad, Talent Corp, and call upon all the panelists. Mr. Nazrul Aziz, the floor is yours.
I do not know how it's going to be, but maybe I'm the one who invite all the panelists. Yeah, okay. So yeah, Dato' Shahul, Puan Norlida as well, and Mr. Halman, please come to the stage. We're going to start our session now. Okay, good morning and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Welcome to the second day of AKEPT Global Series, Skill for the Workforce of the Future Conference 2023. I do hope that we have at least similar level of energy like yesterday. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh and good morning all. All right. We have the energy today. So today we are having the third forum of the conference, and the topic for today is skill for the future of work. And with us we have three distinguished panelists. I'm going to briefly introduce them and where they come from, which I think they do not actually require the introduction, by the way. So we have Dato' Shahul Daud, the Chief Executive of Human Resource Development Corporation, or HRD Corp. And the second panelist is Mr. Halman Sabri, the Chair of Federation of Malaysian Skills Development Centers, FMSDC, or you also call yourself as federation, right? Federation. And the third one, Puan Nolida Azmi, the Chief People Officer of Axiata Group Berhad. So very interesting because we are going to discuss the skills and future of work from three different lens and perspective. First, you have Datuk Shahul from the macro level perspective, the regulator, the governing body of all training related to employees in Malaysia. We have Mr. Helman from the State Skill Development Centers, who are the implementers of this skills training, working closely with the industry to ensure that the training provided are industry and demand driven. And we have Puan Norlida, who's responsible actually to ensure that the workforce of Axiata is future-proof. So before we go deeper into this topic, I would like to give opportunity for panelists actually to introduce where they come from, the organization that they represent, and what is their aspiration from their organizational perspective related to skill and the future of work. So I shall start with Datuk Shahul.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala syarafil anbiya'i mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Very good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you so much, Mr. Moderator, for giving us the introduction this morning. And I'm very happy to be part of this forum. And it's a very important topic that needs to be discussed among us. My name is Shahul Dawood. I'm the Chief Executive for HRD Corp. And I'm in the organization for the last 3 years. And HRD Corp is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. And we could proudly say we are in the business for the last 3 decades. We never know that 30 years before we started off this organization, we never know that the learning pattern or the workforce will change so much. So, alhamdulillah. But we still been a very meaningful organization. In the last 30 years, the amount of trainings, the developments HRD Corp has done, it is huge. So inshallah, we continue to do bigger, better, and more responsible role in the years to come. As I said, learning has been very different, especially post-COVID. Nobody thought that learning pattern will change so much. Workforce pattern will change so much. The future of work will change so much. So I think I was just sharing with some of my friends over just now at the breakfast. I said, nobody ever thought that the changes that is happening in the learning and workforce, human capital development is massive. In the country, this is the number one major transformation that is happening. If you don't have the right workforce, if you don't have the right skills, I think you're going to be left behind, not just only internally, even externally, among the competitions that is happening around the region, globally. If you don't possess right skills, you're going to be left behind. So I have a couple of things that I want to share, but let this be the introduction of my topic today. Thank you.
Okay, next, I think we go to Mr. Helman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi. My name is Halman Sabri. I'm the chairman for the Federation of Malaysian Skill Development Center. And I'm also the executive director of Sarawak Skill. Probably through my background on Sarawak Skill, it's good for you all to know that Sarawak Skill play an important role in Sarawak because we are linked with all the industry in Sarawak. And currently we have coming to 9 training center, learning center all over Sarawak. And the past 2 days we have our convocation, and we have Sarawak Skill have the AKEPT University College, and I'm happy to share here that we have been given a bigger task by our Premier in Sarawak to go into green Tibet. And this is something new, and we have accepting his challenge to do that. And I think probably we are the first one in Malaysia to drive this green Tibet in Malaysia. So I will talk about all this, about the skills for the workforce of the future later on. And to me, as what Dato' Shahul was sharing just now, we have to get ready on ourselves. And as an educator or as a trainer, there's so much to do in this coming 1 or 2 years. If you notice that, that's why I share with Tuan Azrul just now. I glanced from the TV screen. I've noticed that, if I'm not mistaken, in UK, they say protect workers from AI. So this is something that we need to be proactive in dealing with our future workforce. Thank you very much.
Okay, now, Nolida.
Assalamualaikum and good morning, everybody. My name is Nolida, or known as Oli. I lead the people function in Axiata Group. It used to be called telecommunication, but like all industries in the world these days, we like to call ourselves the digital telecommunication. So most of our aspiration today is actually to move away from telco to be techco. And that itself already suggests that the charter that we have in Axiata as a regional player is how do we future-proof and stay ahead of the game. I'm really encouraged today actually to be in the panelists where in the macroeconomic there is already so much focus on learning and training, which has already changed because now I cannot even go to my people and say, oh, it's training, they call it intervention. I'm like, okay, fine, because different generations like to call it differently. But also within the group of Axiata Group, we also have pure digital banks that takes an industry adjacency knowledge, digital marketing, MarTech, which is also a thing. So it's really exciting times and really poses a lot of opportunities in the human capital space in training. I was just sharing with Ahmad just now where my board committee will say, says Nolida, opportunities begin with human beings, so that's HR and the human capital. Problems also end with human beings. So it's a very busy vocation, but I think one worth pursuing. I'll share with you a little bit more on some of our digital DNA sort of learning that we do for Axiata Group. Thank you.
Thanks, Oli. So one thing that we have captured from the initial sharing of the panelists is, the changes happening now. Whether it's digital, whether the nature of work for the past few years, especially during the pandemic, post-pandemic. And then what we want to understand from HRD Corp perspective is how actually HRD Corp plan actually to ensure that we can future-proof the overall workforce. What are the challenges faced by HRD Corp? And how actually at the end of the day, working closely with the training providers like the members of FMSDC, as well as employers like Axiata, how actually HRD Corp actually plan actually to ensure that this country workforce is actually future-proof and always be ahead of curve. Like Lorida said just now, it starts with human and it ends with human. So, yeah, Dato', maybe.
Well, I think HRD Corp, I just said that we are 30 years old, the organization. If you look back, backtrack a little bit about HRD Corp, where we started, the primary objective of HRD Corp started was to collect a levy from the employers and disperse as a training grants to the same employers to conduct training for employees. Of course, that was the right intention. That was the best way to do. And I've been to many countries globally. I traveled in the last 3-4 years. We could proudly say as a Malaysian, we have one of the best training infrastructure, systematic training that is available in the country. We are one of the country, or maybe very few countries in the world, that we systematically collect levy, focused on the development of skills and human capital. And in that aspect, we are on the right track. But it does not just stop there. But it is not so much important that we just collect levy and we don't understand what is the way forward for the training and development. Yes, we collect levy, but how impactful, how effective that we are using is the most important. The past HRD Corp used to focus only on training and development. That was our core objective. When we did structured HRD Corp, that's our primary objective. The dynamics of the whole training and development changed drastically during COVID and post-COVID. Before that, we just focused only on the training and development. This used to be the scenario with the HRD Corp. Sometimes when we have elephant in the room, we have to discuss what's the challenges and the problems we had. As we all gathered here for a simple reason, because we want to have a future workforce to be skilled in the country, and we are in the same family. So people come to HRD Corp. They come for training and development. They come for training, and we provide them kind of a skill, funds and necessary stuffs. But after the training, a graduate come to HRD Corp. Unemployed graduate come to HRD Corp. After the training, he continued to be unemployed. What does it mean to him? What kind of value proposition the HRD Corp give it to him? Who is the beneficiary from there? It's just purely a training provider who comes to HRD Corp, who does the training, then he just go back. We don't care about what is the outcome or what's the impact after the training. So we started to shift our objective, our requirement, our expectation from just purely becoming a organization that is focusing on training and development without an impact and an objective. Now we focus everything, every single dollar HRD Corp spends, focus on the impact, focus on the outcome. That's the most important thing. And number two, we also started to realize we cannot just do training alone. We have to focus into the holistic picture of the human capital development. Human resource is one of the portion of the human capital. That's not the human capital alone. So we started focusing on training, internships. So we focus on the jobs because HRD Corp is one of the organization, or one of the agency in the country who has direct connection to 87,000 employers. Not many organization has that kind of privileges. As of today, we got 87,000 employers registered with HRD Corp. We have access to 4.4 million employees. So that's a huge number. We can do a lot of great activities, impactful programs using the database. So we started to work with our employers to open up jobs, internships. And not only that, we focus very heavily on the upskilling, reskilling, and cross-skilling people. So if you put back into the table of what we are doing right now, we just don't focus only on the people who are working for companies, employees. We focus on unemployed graduates. We focus on graduates. We focus on people who are looking for career transition. We focus on people who want to be entrepreneur. They want to generate their own income generation. So we focus on all sectors of group that will make Malaysia a high-skill or knowledge-based economy society. That's the most important. So we shift our goalpost a little bit, not because we want to do it, that's the way the future is all designed about. As an organization, we must be very agile, that we must be prepared to go for the challenges. That is what's happening in the industry. And especially in the space of human capital, I'm sure many of you will agree with me. The learning pattern has changed drastically. Before, the only thing which I always say, the only thing COVID has brought good thing to the country is the penetration of technology and, innovation into the industry. If not for COVID, the technology intervention will not be this drastic or this fast. People never want to go into the Zoom meetings or, online meetings. Even physical meetings used to be very difficult. How do you want to meet people before COVID on the, online? I used to be with the jobsdb.com, one of the largest job sites in Asia Pacific 15 years ago. And at that time, nobody believed in the online jobs. People always believe in the physical jobs, physical advertising. Nobody wanted to believe in the physical jobs. When I was in JobsDB, that's where the intervention of video resume started coming out. People start to apply jobs to the video resume. They record themselves, they send it. Nobody believed in that. Today, this is the trend. So the technology trend is changing so much. The learning pattern has changed so much. Today is not about, trust me, 3 years or even not 3 years, even shorter than that. People will never want to go for long-term training programs. People never want 3 years, 4 years, 2 years program. Today, people believe learning is like how you do TikTok. Everything they want to learn within a span of 30 seconds or 40 seconds and go on. That is the focus of the people. the loyalty of learning among the people is reducing. My grandfather would have worked for an organization just purely for the basic of, just for earning salary, because that's the only thing he wanted. He don't care about the employer, he don't care about the benefits. Maybe my time, I start to work on the lifestyle because I have the job, I want to build my lifestyle. But my children will work for 3 companies a day, not 1 company. That's how the learning pattern is changing. Workforce is changing. So when you go toward that way, your social security, like EPF, SOCSO, your other benefits, everything have to change. Your learning pattern will change. Today is all about self-directive learning. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the most important word. People don't want to learn in a big group. People don't want to learn one content for everybody. You can't fit one shirt for everybody. Today, if you got 10 people, you're meeting in a classroom, 10 people have 10 different expectations, 10 different focus areas, 10 different kind of pattern you want to go. So it's all about self-directive learning. So as a Malaysians, are we prepared for this kind of changes? Number one, we have to ask ourselves. Number two, how many people take training and development serious in this country? We can't be just talking about, we want to make Malaysia as a high-income nation, a high-skill nation. We want to become like a Germany. We want to be like Japan. But we don't do the basics right. What is the basic? Basic is you must, push for continuous learning. Lifelong learning is the best way to do it. You can't come and tell, I was a gold medalist in university, so I know everything in the world. No. If you're a gold medalist in university, that's it, you're finished. The next 6 months' time, the industry is different. If you look back into the invention of Samsung, when they released the version of the phone, next 2 versions of the phone is already in the store, already available. Before they invent, that fast the technology is moving. So as a human, if you want to catch up with the technology, we must be faster than the technology. Of course, every technology is the invention of the human. Nothing comes from the sky. Everything has been invented by the human. So how can the invention become faster than human? This is a big question mark. Because the learning pattern is not continuous. People think that learning is so easy. Learning is cheap. Learning is not for me. If Malaysians, we continue to have this is the major problem for us. The organization have to believe, the employers, sorry to say, but this is very important. If you're a lot of employers here, I want to share this. Employers think that, if I continue to train my people, 2 things will happen. One, they will ask for the increase in the pay. Number 2, either they will look for new opportunities. So I prefer to have somebody who can be very productive to me. I can give a little bit of increase based on their skills, and I keep them, rather than I keep somebody who has been very mediocre in the organization. That's the reason today the government is discussing about the progressive wage system. Progressive wage is all about, moving your, wages according to the skills you possess along the way. So all these things are very important. Talent Corp is here. That's the one of the key, requirement of Talent Corp is to address the brain drain and bring back all these people who are Malaysians working overseas to bring it here. So we have to ask a question. We keep bang and talking about Talent Corp. Why Malaysians go overseas? Let's ask this question. Why Malaysians go overseas? It's not, we get the jobs, the best job only in overseas? No. You think they get the best remuneration wages without working hard in the overseas? No. Majority of the people who leave Malaysia because they are not able to get the best benefits, good wages according to their learning skills in the country. So we have to address the issues. If you are able to keep your wage system, you're able to keep the benefit system according to the international standards or according to the market, then maybe people have come in. This is where the employers have to understand. Employers have to, I keep telling them, after post-COVID, the market is having a very difficult in terms of getting the right candidate. The talent crunch is huge. One, the experts are the professional people who used to work before COVID, who lost jobs during COVID due to certain reasons, have not come back to the job market as they believe freelancing is the best way for them. Gig working is the best way for them. So that is a big gap there. Second, there was a recent study from the Ministry of Education. Almost 48 to 49% of the students who have completed SPM doesn't want to pursue their higher education. This is another big alarming news for us. Number 3, people are not upskilling themselves. So when you have all these three things having, you are going to have a shortage of talent. When do you attract the right talents? Today as an employer, gone are those days. It's no longer the employer's market. Today is employees' market. If you don't give the best benefits to the employees, you might not have the best talent working. Of course, you will have some talents, but you might not have the best talents working for you. This is very important. We might think that when we call people for an interview, we are interviewing them. It's not true. They are interviewing us. When they come to our place, they are interviewing us. Hey, Dr. Shahul, what is your company name? How long we can, what is the time we have to work? What is the benefits you give? Sometimes I used to think, you're interviewing me, I'm interviewing you. So this is the trend of the industry. We have to accept and we have to move on. So the challenges are right in front of the eyes. How we want to tackle it, how much we are ready to accept it and move on is the question mark that we live with. Everybody in the country have to believe that continuous learning is the best way for us to stay put in the industry. It cannot be one time. It cannot be like, once in a year we send our staff for 3 hours or 2 hours or 2 days or 3 days, then they do the best productivity in the organization. Continuous learning. That's the reason HID Corp started our National Training Week. National Training Week is to create awareness among all Malaysians. It is about every individual can make the difference what we want to see in the country. Today we got 100 over people in this hall. These 100 people can make the real difference. If you go back and talk about what we are talking today about the future of work to your colleagues, your peers, your neighbors, you bring the change what we want to see. You don't have to have the physical training center, you don't have the best facilities. It's about sharing of knowledge. When you share, we earn more. When we earn more, when we learn more, we earn more as well. Okay. That's for now. Thank you, Nazrul.
Okay, thanks, Datuk. I think there are a few things that I pick up from what Datuk shared just now. There are challenges faced by HID Corp and training ecosystem as a whole. But I would like to bring that to the implementer of the training, Mr. Alman. So Datuk Shahul was mentioning that one thing, change is too rapid. Second, the attention span, very short. So how actually, federation, similar to HID Corp, you also existed for about 3 decades, correct? Yeah. 30 years. Yeah. And along the way, how you adapt to it and ensure that the training offered by the skills development centers are demand-driven and able to meet the need of the industry. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you know about PSDC? Can I have raise your hand, please? How many of you know PSDC? Penang Skill Development Center? Okay. How many of you know about FMSDC, Federation of Malaysian Skill Development Center? None. Okay, I think first of all, I would like to introduce what the Federation of Malaysian Skill Development Center is. We were formed 30 years ago. It started with PSDC, and the then government, under, if I'm not mistaken, under Tun Mahathir at that particular time. And they see that Penang Skill is moving very fast and also effective in imparting the technical skill to the workers in Penang. And that particular time was in the 1980s, Dr. Shahul, Penang was the early years of the semiconductor industry. So the cabinet of the federal government at that particular time urged all the states in Malaysia to form State Skill Development Center. So from then, we have Selangor Human Resource Capital Development Center, followed by Johor, Negeri Sembilan, and Sabah, and also Sarawak Skill, except for Kelantan and Perlis. And the total of these State Skill Development Center are about 13 State Development Center, and they come under the umbrella of the Federation of Malaysian Skill Development Center. So this umbrella is the umbrella which is working closely with the industries, with the government, and also the skill center setting itself, the management itself. So I would say that the model of the skill development center under the federation is a tripartite collaboration. A tripartite, he means 3 organizations working. One is the federal government. Federal government will provide the grant, training grant, will provide the TEMS. TEMS mean tools, equipment, and machines. The state government of each particular state will provide them infrastructure, the venue for training, and some training grant. While the industries are the members of the State Development Center. So all in all, they are working together. When I say is a members, but they own the skill center, but they don't have a kind of receiving dividend every year because it's meant for non-profit organization. So these are the model that the Federation Nation Skill Development Center is having now. And moving forward, what we have contributed to the country, to the nationwide is, as a group, we have trained about 750 skilled workers that represent all the states in Malaysia. And if you know that Penang is more on semiconductor, then Penang is the champion for semiconductor. And if Sarawak will be championing for oil and gas, for example, like HRD Corp, we have been working very closely with PTPK. We have been working with MIDA and also MPC. So recently we have been assigned to train 2,000 technicians in semiconductor industry that falls under the MSIA, Malaysian Semiconductor Industry Association, which require semiconductor technician. No? So we have to work with MSIA to find out the needs. What are the needs on this semiconductor? What kind of outcome they want, as what Dr. Shahul was saying just now, so that it meets the needs of the industry. Similarly, like oil and gas, we have to meet the needs of the industry. In Sarawak itself, what we have done is we are working closely with the Association of Oil and Gas. That's where they give the input that they want, let's say, we need 300 painter and blaster technician. So we have to do that. We have to develop the program to meet the needs of the oil and gas industry. So this is the mechanism how we work to meet the industry needs in terms of to skill the workers of the future. So I think what we are doing now under the Federation, as the chairman of the Federation now, I'm urging all the skill development center now to get ready with the future work. Now the future work needs a kind of high level in terms of, as you all know, that there is a technology change. So many things happen now, technology change. So we have to do upskilling of the workers, and the training center, the setting itself, need to be prepared to address the issue of digital skilling, to address the issue of the green TVET that we are also the coming skill that we need in future. So basically, what the Federation is doing now is to support what the government, what the industry wants, so that it meets the aspiration of both the industry and both of the government aspiration. So I think that's basically the Federation is working towards this. The other part that I would like to explain here in terms of, there's a question here is how good are we? I believe that we have done a great job in terms of equipping our workforce and relevant skill as required by the industry. As I mentioned just now, we have trained about 750 trainees, and about 90% of the trainees were employed in various industry sectors like manufacturing, oil and gas, services, plantation, tourism, and many others. So when we talk about federation, it encompasses about 13 state skill development training center. So we are doing a technical training, and also to address the future skill gaps of the workers for the nation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ahmad. I think that should provide the context of the role of federation with regards to preparing our workforce for the future. Okay, now I'm going to go to the implementer, basically, I mean the very person who's responsible to ensure that the workforce of the organization is ready to brave the future. So, Aziata, you mentioned, Oli, just now, about Aziata moving from telco to techco. I mean, as CPO, Chief People Officer, what are the things that you need to do, strategize, to ensure that Aziata is ahead of the curve? And we are not just discussing about ensuring Aziata is competitive within Malaysia, by a regional level and global level, because you're operating at that scale. So how do you do that? And what is your plan actually to ensure that the people of Aziata is ready for that?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's a very high undertaking. When we're talking about delivering an impactful learning that's actually relevant, every year I look and say, have we changed our vision and mission? Are we still aligned? So we still want to be the next generation digital champion. We are one of the industries that during the MCO, unfortunately or fortunately, we had to grow during that time. So it accelerated the use and the platform of digital. But it also forced us to develop during that time. We had to be creative. So I think when we look at how do we design the training, we look at, is it still in line with our vision and mission? Secondly, does it give you the skill sets that our people require? And I'm talking across, we are present in 11 countries. Going a little bit more, we never aspire to be global, we aspire to be regional. That's the nature. So first we identify and we go on just the very key areas of digital right now. So we have what we call on a learning experience program, 8 academies. And we had digital, we had technology, sales and marketing, governance, because we are in a highly regulated organization, ways of working, as well as business acumen. If I just focus on the digital and the technology academy, we have since now merged it because the gray is a gray area between what is technology IoT and what is AI, because sometimes the skill sets and competencies are flowing in the gray. So how we design is our curriculum, what we call it our virtual curriculum, depending who are the subject matter experts around our group, are actually my CTOs, my chief technology officers, my CIOs, because they tell me what's outside that how they need to deliver. So then we build a competency-based program. So it is a basic, intermediate, and advanced. We also partner with sometimes external partners, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, AWS, because they are ahead in terms of the product and solutions. So you bring what the market wants, what the vendors can deliver, and we train our people so that they have the competency. That's how we scale up, by using the digital platform, and we use it for all our things. I want to take you now into who is the audience we go for. We just don't train data scientists. We expect all of Axiata, 13,500, to be digitally savvy. So we embarked on a program called Data Citizen. Data Citizen is the most basic. So we are expecting that if you see an Axiata person, oh, they are digitally savvy. Then as they go up the area of competency, they can move to become data explorer, they can become data scientists. I feel that it's our responsibility to equip all our people for the future. So that's one of this. But sometimes you hear so much more about digital, that the IQ, now we have IQ, DQ, right? Digital quotient. We also feel that the human elements of EQ, which is our emotional quotient, our culture quotient, because we are operating in so many parts of the world, they are able to collaborate much more effectively, must be there. We also find that our people like nano degrees. So in building a competency framework and avail on a digital platform, they like to have micro-credentials. So we have certifications by Google, by Microsoft. So people feel that I have spent my time. Interestingly enough, for Axiata, we have found that people say, okay, I have my learning in the flow of work, right? Josh Bersin, as you do your work, you get your TikTok versions of 30 minutes and everything else. But they also crave a little bit for short in classrooms where they can learn more from networking and experiences. So we go by the 10-20-70 experience, that we try and bring use cases and live cases. And it's not just training for the next level. We also feel that we need to train the leaders, because as our capability increase on the ground, our leaders must be on top as well. So we find that we do a lot of mindset, thought leadership, that we need to move our leaders so that they feel that they want to invest in themselves and they will allow people to invest. Since coming back to the office, we at Axiata have a 3 hybrid working. Sometimes we have leaders that say, wow, so free, I got so much learning. I'm saying, excuse me, that 30 minutes of investment will pay so much more in productivity, in retention, and having a high morale. Because I find that both in engagement, employer engagement surveys, development needs, that career development is key. I cannot just give a person a higher salary or higher job if I've not given them a chance. How do we make them successful? So equipping that. So for me, I feel that how we design and scale is looking at what are the contents, who is the population that we are targeting, second, and the third one is on what platforms. You know, we have some of the Zenders these days, the very young one. I do have to have the TikTok versions. And okay, give me something. But I do find my highly technical people want to go with that 3-day deep classes that they. So we have this digital platform, but don't get me wrong. There are in countries, for example, your sales and marketing requires very soft skills and acumen for my Bangladesh operation. So they have a school of marketing in Bangladesh itself. For my tower company, E.co, we have the climbers, they have a school of engineering. So you need to have a blended approach in platforms, in content, and in the style. It's, I think, going to be one of the very defining factors how organizations can say that I'm going to stay ahead. So we have to anticipate a little bit. And I think this is where, Dato', when we talk about impactful, we recently sent all our learning leaders and plus 1 or 2 to a program called Return on Investment by Dr. Phillips. Because I want my learning leads to be able to talk the language of my CFOs, because when I ask for money, this is what I'm going to get back in the investment. And if you don't give me the investment, this is what you're going to lose out in terms of the future impacts on your business or the communities we operate in. This ROI thing is just new. We started off last year by just doing mindset, and we said how to make your CFOs happy. That means when you ask money, you're going to give them a return. This year, we gave them, they just did the certification program. They need to do a project, and then they'll be certified. Because I think HR practitioners should speak the language of returns so that we can really dimension impact. And it's not always about money, because the impact can be measured into the cost to the community, in cost to the reputation of the organization. So that's a little bit, Nazra, of where we're going. So every time you reach somewhere, I think we need to find what's the next level that we want to go up to.
So, I mean, it's continuous, right?
Absolutely.
Never stop. Okay, I'll still stay with you. Okay, Datuk Shaw mentioned about employer just now. Employer have this philosophy about giving training to employee, because if they give training to employee, then 2 things. They ask for higher salary and then they leave the company, potentially, for career growth. Is that a situation in Axiata or not?
I feel that 80% will stay because they feel fulfilled. The landscape of our organization is Gen-wise. Gen-wise today seek for career fulfillment and life fulfillment. So one is training, but it must be complemented that you are giving them meaningful work. And depending on the industry you're in, how is the job recrafted? And if you have a regional or even domestic in various countries, they want to have different experiences. My career conversations with the people are not about how long do you want to build a career with Axiata, because they come back and says to me, Puan, I want life experiences, do you know? So I think, will they ask for more? Absolutely. Will we lose up some? But I do believe, like what Datuk said, I think it's much more costly to have in the organization an untrained and worse, a wrongly trained person, because they can derail you faster than an untrained. So I think organizations have to be brave, Nazrul. I've come from 2 organizations where, you know, if they leave, you increase the competency of the country. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of national duty, I feel, you know?
Okay, a reason why I ask, because I mean that's always a perception with regards to training. But I think most of the companies, especially companies who believe that they are there actually for long-term sustainability, will invest in their people. Okay, you operate at regional level only. There must be best practices that you have captured across the countries that you are operating. Maybe you can identify 1 or 2 best practices, and then after that, what would be some policy change or some support you require from the government, from the HRD Corp, for example, so that you can actually implement as an employer to ensure that you are able to achieve your objective?
I think we have a platform called Collective Brain. Collective Brain is you have no ego where it started, whether it started in Malaysia or it started in any one of our other countries. So for example, in our presence in Sri Lanka, they have adapted the principle of agile phenomenally. So this is what we want to learn when you talk about best practice. So they replicate. So our company in Indonesia learns from them. Our company in Malaysia learns from them. So, you know, when you talk about agile, it's not just a catchword, because agile is in the way of how you do things, also the way you think. So what we have done is, you know, they use, what is the agile in finance, agiles in people life cycle, you can put agile anyways. So I think what we do is that we take best practices, we put it on a database called Synapse, so that you have use cases to use reference. Because framework or any theory is easy, all of us can master. How do we apply it? I think where we need to, in any of this part, is how do we institutionalize this, bring it into our way of thinking, and see I am sure we have a lot of training programs. Datuk, forgive me, I may not know exactly what it is, but I don't see enough of agile applications. You know what I mean? So I think what we can do is perhaps partnerships with companies that can have the teaching with companies that has the doing. And then I think our people will learn so much more. And I think going back with people who do internships or apprenticeship, and with TVET coming, you learn so much more. So we are finding that it's easier to teach. It's the tracking of the application, that how do we bring it into, whether via HRD Corp or via the trainers. The trainers that we work with, we ask them, can you show the connectivity of application, not just the framework? So I think that's where I think we can bring more value to the country and the wider industry.
Then from there, I would like to bring it back to Datuk Shahul. Datuk, you've been in HRD Corp for 3 years. What are the things and changes that you have made actually to basically make a training ecosystem more robust and agile? And what are the things that you expect from the employers that and the training providers, support that you require to ensure that we are able actually to achieve a training ecosystem where it is able actually to support the future-proofing of our workforce?
I mean, Nazrul, I think we keep things very simple. We don't complicate lives in HRD Corp, as we all been complicated in many ways, First, we monitor the trends and the technology and the market. What the market wants? Very simple. If the market is going towards a certain direction, we work towards the market, number one. Number two, we understand, very important, what our stakeholders want. Gone are those days, we come and tell, oh, I'm the regulator, I'm HRD Corp, I collect a lot of money, I work with employees, I know what is best. No. We know very little. I think my stakeholders and my customers know much better than what I know. So number two. Number three, when we know the market, when we know the stakeholders, we just need to understand our internal strengths. What are my team, are my people capable of doing to my stakeholders? These three are very critical things for us. We always align ourselves that way. That is the success model for HRD Corp in the last 3 years. I won't say, it's, because I'm there, it's 3 years, we have done a lot of transformation. There's almost 700 people working in HRD Corp. Everybody believes in the value system. Everybody believes that customer is king. Everybody believes my stakeholders are the most important. Everybody thinks that we are here to serve the people who knows best and better than us. That's the first formula, what we do in HRD Corp. Number two, we continue to understand the challenges what the industry is possessing. It's not about just training. It's not about the funds and all those things. Today, alhamdulillah, we are better than what we used to be. Today is not about the issue of the training grants or the training funds. We have funds, we have money, but how effective is the training is the biggest question mark we have to ask ourselves. Last year, the financial year ended 2022, HRD Corp collected 1.8 billion levy. 1.8 billion levy. We trained almost 1.2 million people in the year 2022. But the year 2023, we expected to collect 2.2 billion with almost 1.7 million people to be trained. And we continue to escalate those expectations. Inshallah, by 2025, we should be able to collect at least 4 billion for training and development. What does this mean to the industry? What does this mean to the employees? What does this mean to the training providers? We are operating on a market space that has almost 4 billion worth. But when we have so much of money, we need to make use of that in a very effective manner. We are focusing about 2 million people going to be trained in 2 years from now. And we want to make sure that 35% of the Malaysian workforce need to be highly skilled. And how are we going to push ourselves towards there? When there's so much of disruption happening in the industry, a learning pattern has been really disrupted. The big boys who are driving larger certifications, degree programs, masters, they are going to go a major challenges in terms of education disruption. People have to go for a short-term certification. Micro-credentials will come in and play a very important role. People want to go for certification, experience-based learning. These all are going to come in. And we have to work. This is not just the certification or the education disruption. Technology disruption is bigger than what is this. I was just reading an article a couple of days ago. This happened in Bangalore. There was a group of corporate communications team has been totally, removed from the organization, top organization, simply because the organization started to adopt ChatGPT to take care of the work that the corporate com used to do. So, where are we heading towards? Technology is good. I'm a strong, preacher of technology adaptation. But we as an organization, we as a country need to know what kind of technology we need to adopt. Does it going to bring value to the country? That's going to bring value to the human, capital. That's going to bring value to the, corporate structures. And most important, we cannot adopt technology because that's the trend. That's the, way every country is following. So we have to follow. Not everything that's successful in United Nations are not successful in, China will be successful in Malaysia. We need to see what's best for our country. The game is all about humanizing technology. ChatGPT was developed by a human. All kind of technology is developed by a human. But we leave the element of the human, but we take the technology. So there's a lot of separation of technology versus human. And end of the day, we try to get the human to compete with the technology. It's not that the way to how we should look into it. We should take technology and human, and we should know how to humanize technology. Ladies and gentlemen, just let me give you a very good example. How many of you are human resource practitioners here? Can you put up your hands here? Human resource practitioners, human capital developers, people who believe in human capital development. Okay, you see, COVID is a classic example. If you think doctors play a very important role in the country, and if you think that, the hospitals played an important role in the country in managing COVID, I will say human resource managers or the human resource practitioners played an equal role in developing a nation during managing the country during the crisis. We never know how the COVID looks. We never know what is work from home. We never know flexi working hours. We never understand the challenges of COVID, but all human resource practitioners quickly adapted themselves, changed themselves to ensure that the organization continued to operate without any hassle, without any challenges, and be able to meet up to the KPIs, not only for the organization, they also supported the government and the system. So we play an important role. When we play an important role of shaping up the human capital of the country, we should understand the trends of the country. Humanizing technology is a very important, topic that we should address. Self-directive learning is another topic that we should continue to understand and believe and to work towards that. So if not, we will have a lot of technology disruption. There's no way towards it. We talk about skills gap. Every time there's a big, debate, it's not a Malaysian problem, it's a global problem. Every university students finish their school or university, they come out of the university, they always talk about the skills gap. What is the solution to the skills gap? Are we going to create the curriculum because every 6 months as the technology is changing? No, it's not going to happen. University and universities and the colleges, they have the fixed curriculum. They continue to change once in 2 years, 3 years, or so on and so forth. But the technology is not that way. What you study now, 2 months from now, is no longer available. What you study in the first semester might not be available on the second semester. This is the real-time challenge. University will face, the colleges will face. But the best way to address the skills gap is continuous learning. You can't stop learning. You stop learning, you will have a serious problem. I was telling in a couple of seminars, you must tell this to the students. Continuous learning is the best way. When I used to be in a university, I used to study, I'm a technology side, I used to learn desktop operating system, DOS, that was the time. When I finished the first year, desktop is no more available. People all moved from GUI, graphical user interface. I used to be a programmer, C programmer, Oracle programmer, Unix programmer. Those days I used to sit down and write coding, one by one. And I get a lot of punishment because I do a lot of wrong coding. Today, coding is no longer available. People is like a drag and drop coding. That is gone. Even drag and drop is gone. People today are talking about low coding. You know what is low coding? Instead of driving, 1,000 codes, you use 5 codes to write the 1,000 codes. So you see the changes that's happening in the industry. The changes will happen. That is indispensable. But not necessary. We need to catch up with all the changes immediately. Of course, we need to change. Not everything we need to change immediately. But we must prioritize our changes. Today, you see, everybody will start talking about ChatGPT. Until we don't even know what's ChatGPT, we still talk about ChatGPT. And everybody will jump into the bandwagon of ChatGPT, and this will cause a lot of disruption. Organizations have to start to believe the pros and cons of ChatGPT. Are we bringing in this just to replace our people? Okay, is that when we replace that, that's going to solve our problem? No. Maybe it's like a short-term pleasure. After some time, you know what is that problem, you'll go through the ChatGPT. So, ladies and gentlemen, the challenges of future workforce is humanizing technology. If you don't humanize the technology, you have to talk to we already in a space of talking to the technology. We got 100 people sitting down here. 70-80% of the people talk only to the mobile phones than the people. So we are already having the problem of communicating with the technology, and we don't want to elaborate that furthermore. So let's humanize the technology, focus on the self-directive learning. Then I think as a country, we have a better progress. We have to address these challenges, and the challenges and the changes have to come from us. HRD Corp, we believe, we are going to go towards training 2 million people. And I continuously push HRD Corp, talk about what is that we can bring value to the organization? What is that we can bring value to the employees? The real training is not about employers giving training to employees. You must give the privilege to employees to choose what training they want. That is the real training we are talking about. What we are doing right now is not the right one. If we decide we are getting the employers to choose what training the employees should go, obviously if I'm driving a telco company, I want my guys to go for a telco-based training or something that related to it. I will never allow my company, my employees to go for a training on agro-based program or maybe entrepreneurship. So, but the real time, if you go back to the developing countries, employees decide what training they want to go rather than the employers decide. And these are the challenges which is happening around the industry. This is the real psychology of training. but we must adapt towards it. We might not like it, but we have to do it. Like what we say, like what Nazrul shared just now, or also Madam Noli shared just now. Though we know when we send them for training, there's the risk factor of they might ask for the salary increment, and there's a risk factor of they might move to a different job. But that is the calculated risk we have to take in organization for us to progress better. If we are worried about the risk, we shouldn't be doing business. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shaul. You get the answer from ChatGPT, right? Okay, coming back to the implementer. Dr. Shaul mentioned about the curriculum in university, and then Federation is very much into TVET. So I would like to bring some different perspective on how actually to ensure that we are ahead of the curve. How the training provided by skill development centers like Federation members can complement the normal academic track that we have in university, how it can be complementary rather than competing. Yep.
Thank you again, Mr. Moderator Nazrul. I got to be careful of answering this question about how we can, the university can improve, right? Work together with the stakeholder, like TVET provider. I think what we have generally, the public mindset about university is they are academician, they are more theoretical, they are not hands-on. Kadang-kadang orang cakap saja pandai, buat tak pandai. I hope I'm right on this. I think mostly public will have that perception. But there's nothing wrong with what the academician is doing now. Because I always believe that there are three words that are very important here. One is attitudes, skills, and knowledge. To me, in a higher institution, what they are doing now is the right thing. You are building or develop the good attitude, the good values, to humanize the human, and the skill itself is hands-on, practical, and the knowledge, yes, definitely, if you go to higher institution, you have that knowledge. And these three components that build up into a skilled workforce. So in university, what really happened is, I know that there are a kind of management courses, management program, and there are technical program courses. Both of them need skill to be enhanced. I don't have any complaint about attitudes. I don't have any complaints about knowledge in the university. If it is properly taught, then we can humanize human. We can humanize human in such a way that when they go out, they have the proper values to become a good workforce. Except that what they need now is skill. Most universities, they have equipment, they have proper tools to learn, to enable them to have hands-on, but the university must work very fast. The speed of technology now is moving very fast. That's why they need the industry input, okay? The industry input. So if I may suggest to the academician here, probably what we need now is, you have to follow what the TVET in terms of perception now. Maybe 70% hands-on and 30% more on theoretical, that include knowledge. So I think moving forward, because in terms of agility of you to change your terms, the tool, equipment, and machine, you can't compete with the industry. They have all this modern technology. That's where we have to send our students our undergraduate for internship, for practical. And then again, if I'm not mistaken, I may be wrong. Now, in higher institution, what happened is the internship or the practical is less. I think is that 2 months or 3 months? 3 months. 3 months. It should be at least 1 semester. During my time in study, I have to go for internship for about 1 semester. Only then you can know how the industry, only then the student know how the industry working environment is. That's where the skill can be enhanced in the industry, while the A and the K you can enhance in the university. I think this is how you should be doing. And the second thing that I would like to emphasize on this higher institution is get the industry to teach. I have a very funny experience in Sarawak Skill when I first worked in Sarawak Skill. TAFE Australia, you know, TAFE Australia. They have a visit to Sarawak Skill in Kuching. So they see that we have a very young generation in teaching, in instructing. We call in skill is instructor. Are they students? They ask us. No, they are the teacher. Oh, your teacher are very young. You see, what we need now is an experienced industry personnel to go to the university. Of course, you have to train them how to become a good trainer or become a good lecturer. All this delivery methodology, the university must teach them how to become a good lecturer or instructor. So I think this can enhance the product of the university. You know, very funny thing that I experienced also. We have one industry area in Sama Jaya near our skill center that is on semiconductor industry. We asked them, is our graduate good in this particular technical scope? Yes, they are good, but they are lacking on soft skill. Is what Puan was saying just now. Soft skill. Important thing is soft skill. The way they have this communication skill, they are lacking in communication skill. They are lacking in team working. They are a kind of very introvert, not kind of extrovert person. So they need this kind of training to expose them. This is where the university or the higher institution is good to embark on that particular, just to embark on A and K, while S, you have to get the industry to involve in your module or your syllabus. Okay. Number 3 is certain module or certain syllabus, is what Dr. Shahul was saying now, just now. Industry doesn't need a long kind of learning. Yeah? Dr. Shahul was saying TikTok, that is too fast. That is too fast. The industry needs a shorter period. We have the experience that certain industry, they need a kind of, you remember last time when we have this COVID situation, all the Indonesian workers went back and they never come back. And the oil palm industry, they need harvester to collect the fruit. They need the workers. What they need now is just to train them on harvesting. So we do that. Just a 3 weeks program, they can become a competent harvester. So that kind of agility, you have to be acceptable to the industry. You have to follow what the industry needs. Inshallah, the S component just now, we can really work out, and then it will become a skilled workers for the nation. I think that's how I look into the perception of the university now, more toward working with the industry. Kadang-kadang kita ni, orang cakap, kita cakap je tapi kita tak buat. Saya cakap macam tu sebab kita, all the officers, all whoever have been to Germany, have been to Australia and learn how these people are doing, but when they come back, they don't do anything. It needs political will to change how the system will be working effectively. So this is my view from the Federation of Malaysian Skill Development Center view about how we can improve our graduate, the product of our higher institution.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rahman. I think that's, a number of pointers that we can capture how actually we can complement the TVET track as well as the academic track. We are going to go into one final round question before we go into Q&A session. A very short one and also a very short answer. Same question to all panelists. All here from different perspectives. We are talking about the training ecosystem, ensuring our workforce is ready for the future. What would be your dream policy change? One dream policy change to ensure that we are ahead of the curve from the perspective of employer, the regulator, as well as the implementer of the training. Maybe I would like to start with Mr. Harman.
Thank you for giving me the honor for this. Political change. To the government, let's revamp how TVET is. And now we have 12 ministries handling it. We have been talking about this for many years to change, to become under one single entity. In Germany, they have one entity. In Australia, they have one entity. To the industry, you see, to the industry, I would say that the TVET, the training on this future workforce or technical training is government-driven. The industry got to have this mindset changing. Jangan harapkan kerajaan untuk give grant, because they got to be contributing too. The government has done a lot. To me, I appreciate what the government has done. So many programs, SLDN, and HRD Corp, there's so many programs being done. But there's a lukewarm of response from the industry. They are scared to take out the money from the pocket to spend on training. And to the industry, second point is they must have this manpower planning. Whether it's a small, medium, or bigger enterprise, they have to have manpower planning. If they have this manpower planning, then they can have a proper program on apprenticeship. Germany is doing this. I think Australia is also in the same level. Apprenticeship, in even some country, they are using apprenticeship program. This is the best way to polish the skill of the workers. And to the institution, higher institution, they need to work closely with the industry. Get the industry to come to become the lecturers, to share the experiences, do more. I know there's some higher institutions have been done that, but let them engage. Let them engage with the academician, or even if there is a senate, maybe we appoint them as one of the members in the senate. That way they can give the input from the industry. We do that in Federation. We have the industry involved in our management council. That's where we have the input, what kind of training is needed. Upskilling training, reskilling, long-term training. We should also come from the industry. They want this kind of workforce. Only then we can address on the skilled workforce. So that's how my view of.
That's more than one. But I can capture that the most important thing is streamlining TVET because we have many players in the field. That's something that I believe Ministry is working on it. We have formed National TVET Secretariat to look into this at Ministry of Human Resources. So we do hope that eventually, the aspiration to streamline TVET, will be there. Okay, I'll go back to Oli. What will be your dream policy change as an employer with regards to training in this country?
I think just now it was stated that there's so many already government programs. I think the industry need to pick it much more and test it, and they're able to challenge so that it becomes more pragmatic. I think that's important. But the other thing I want to pick up is in terms of industry participation. I believe early participation in education is key. I'm an adjunct professor with UNITA. What I feel was very good in that program, there's about 60 of us covering whether it's ESG, whether it's enterprise leadership or digital and many much more. And what I liked was we were forced into a workshop to relook at the curriculum, because even some of the wordings, for example, nothing wrong with that, it was just that it was crafted a long time ago. To use the word personnel is no longer a relevant word, right? So you're not going to attract the attention of the students or be prepared for it. So we were involved in the co-creating of it, putting industry thing. And as well as most of the adjunct professors have to do at least several hours of lecturing. And I think there's a lot of community these days that want to give back, because we want to make sure that, and the adjunct professors are not just retirees, they go from your 30 to 65, because I think we should maximize and capitalize the multi-generational of wisdom, not only on the technical knowledge, but also on the ways of working. So somewhere we sort of put it into like, I don't know whether it's a policy or a higher encouragement. I think it will elevate the pragmatism of some of the curriculums early age in education. That's my take right now.
Okay, thanks, Oli. Shifting the intervention point earlier and be more involved in preparing the talent pipeline. I mean, if I sum it well. Yep. Okay. Finally, from the regulator perspective, what will be your dream policy change, Dato'?
Actually, you know, and when we say that HRD Corp is a regulator, everybody say, you know, actually we are a little bit of regulator, we are more of an accommodator of a lot of things what we want to do. Well, I think the first point, you asked for 1 point, but I cannot finish with 1 point because I'm a regulator, I have to give 1 or 2 more extra. Okay, the first point, I want to make Malaysia or the Malaysians to think that training is a necessity, it's not a luxury, number 1. That's a very important message. And number 2, training needs to go on a single window so that you can have a focused, you can ensure quality control is there, content is managed better, certifications come better, rather than you open up to everybody and nobody takes responsibility or nobody takes control of what's happening. So I'm a strong advocate that it has to go on a single window, which it gels with what Haji, you know, just now mentioned, that TVET need to be focused, very important, because if you want results, it has to be very focused, then you get better results. Then if you go to everybody, nobody take responsibility, and you might not get the desired results what we want. The third point is that, I spoke about the changes and the landscapes and everything, but it is us who needs to be responsible. If you want to change, you change. You wait for the surrounding to change, it will not happen. And you take responsibility for what you are. If you are successful, your failure, you take the responsibility. And you have to be the catalyst of the change. The surroundings will not change to the pace what you want to change, but you can change and show them that you got a better results because of the change. I think these are simple things, but it has to have the very strong guts and the leadership that you have to do. People on the leadership, they must push it down and understand that if they don't do it, nobody's going to do for the country. I mean, to me, I have a greater responsibility because I take care of the nation with 30 million people, 33 million people. We have the stakeholders like employers, employees, and our implementers, all those. So we need to make sure that whatever things HRD Corp do, we look into the holistic picture of what we want to do, and we compare with the many other countries who are doing similar activities. But I think one thing I can sum up today, we can proudly say as a country, we have the good framework in terms of learning and development, but it is up to us how we want to make use of those framework and the privileges that is available. The initiative has to come from us, and we must be prepared for the change. It must start from you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dato'. Streamlining training to ensure that it's centralized and coordinated, and then be the catalyst of change. One thing I've found from this session is, normally people say that, this is gender joke. Women talk more than men, right? I think from this session, I think we see it differently. Dato' Syahul and Mr. Alman actually have more words than Pak Nolida. Anyhow, before we wrap this session, I would like to open up maybe to the audience if you have one or two questions to our panelists. I would like to welcome, yeah. Please introduce yourself, where you are coming from, and then the question.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a very enjoyable forum. Okay, my name is Mas. I'm from UM. Okay. Actually, I like one of the points that Ms. Norlida actually bring up. It's about the partnership among the industries. Why I want to bring this up, because like, for example, when you're talking about future workforce, right? Some of us who are in the academic line, our programs, we have had add on what the extra skills needed for the students. But what happened is like when our students graduate, in Malaysia, we understand the nature of the businesses or the those who are offering the job. We only have how many MNCs, and we have like more of it are coming from SMEs, companies or industries. So these graduates who are already equipped, they are being grabbed from our neighborhood countries, Singapore and other states. So I would like to ask if rather than we are talking a lot like about partnership between government, industries, how about like between industries itself? Means like high multinational companies with the SMEs companies in Malaysia, in order for us like in Malaysia to provide a better job prospect for our graduates, including the salary, of course. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Okay, I think this one I need to go to the. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. That should be the way the learning pattern should go. That's where recently there was a launch by the Ministry of Economy. Abi Rafizi, I think, launched this scheme called Akademi in Industry. You know, recently it was launched, where we're encouraging the industry to come and work with the education providers to have a better content and better hands-on training. But I think if you go step back, maybe step forward, the internship have to play a very important role for the students as well. I mean, if you ask me, I would, in fact, I spoke to this, to Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Minister of Higher Education, that's Khalid Nordin. I spoke to him, I said that the internship pattern have to change. You can't have the internship at the year 2. I recommend the internship to happen on the last year for the student, so they can just after the internship, they can continue to work. Now what happened? They finish off the internship, they have to come back to the university, and now after they complete the university, they have to go back and look for a job. If you ask me, the final year should be a complete internship. After that, the student can continue. I mean, our students have no problem of getting good CGPAs, good results. It's not the academic results is the problem. The problem is the confidence of the students and the opportunities that have out in the industry is the major challenges. So if we can rework on the pattern of managing students through the internship, you give them a longer duration. Don't give them 3 months, 6 months. Let them go for 9 months of internship in a university, in a private company. So after that, they can continue. They don't have to come back, study again. Just submit the assignment. They can stay there. That is one of the best way to manage graduates getting into employment. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Dato'. I think that's a very good point because, Talent Corp is also a proponent of a good structured internship. And from our finding, it is shown that 30% or 3 out of 10 of our interns actually gain employment from their internship. So we do hope that we can do more with employers. And we have also shared a similar view to Ministry of Higher Education to shift the internship towards the end of it, so that the conversion from school to work become more seamless and smooth. Before we go there, maybe I just want to, before we go to the question, maybe Panolida, if you'd like to share, Dr. Mas was asking about how actually you work between industry, and then from Axiata perspective, how actually you work across your ecosystem with SMEs, the suppliers, everything to ensure that actually you provide good job prospect for the talent hired within the ecosystem of Axiata.
Within the ecosystem of Axiata, we run, I think, Nazrul, as you know, our Axiata Young Talent Program, which is picking out what we want to call future CEOs. We also run the University Leadership Program. What we have done also is we've exported this model to other countries. So that's working across within the companies. But also I was quite taken just now by the young lady that asked a question just now about MNCs and SMEs. I remember in my prior organization that we would partner with SMEs to say, okay, maybe we do a partnership. Sometimes funding is difficult. So some of the bigger organizations have co-funded. And then they do a two-part, okay? So then there is also, you know, sometimes we generally, big companies now outsource to other companies. So they may not get the full experience because at the bigger MNCs, it may just be project management. But actual skills come from the SME. So I remember one of these conglomerates I worked for, we partner with about 5 or 6 because that organized conglomerate I had was using TVET skills. So I was able to bring it into the UEM bigger group and then go to the other vendors. So I'm wondering whether it's something that can be a bit more structured as well, where big organizations can also help, because I think you also upskill the SME worlds. I mean, that was just some of the learnings that I saw that we can enhance the learning module, learning on the job as well.
Okay, thanks, Oli. I mean, reason why I asked from employer perspective, because for example, last year, during the rise of Semicon and ENE in the first half of the year, so poaching happened. So talent poaching, Singapore poached from us, from the MNCs in Penang, and then the MNCs then actually naturally poached from the SMEs, and then SMEs end up without talent. But at the end of the day, within the ecosystem, SMEs are also the suppliers to these MNCs, which is important because it's an ecosystem. So that's why I'm asking. So on that front, I think that question is very, very relevant to our discussion. I think that part we need to look into how we want to structure the working between MNCs and SMEs better. And of course, the ratio is 4 out of 10 actually work in the SMEs. About 3 to 4 work with GLCs and MNCs, another 2 with the government. So that's the ratio. Yep. So yeah, please, your question. One final question. Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much for the panelists. I think it was a very insightful discussion. So my question is more on how we are going to empower employers in terms of allowing the employees go for the trainings based on the certifications, maybe relevant to that industry, how we are going to empower. Because we see right now, as a training provider, most of the trainings are happening on the couple of areas. It's not deviating from that sector. So how we are going to enforce the employers to go towards the technology or emerging technology?
Say again, how to get the employer to allow the employee
to go for the trainings on the emerging technologies.
Upskilling program, yeah. To all this professional how to get the employer to. You see, that's why I in my earlier talk just now, I think change of mindset to the industry got to be embarked by the industry themselves. If they believe in human capital development, they will allow their employee to go for that kind of training, upskilling training. So I think it depends on the status of the company. For let's say MNC, they don't have problem of allowing their employee to further upskilling program. The problem is now is the SMEs. I think probably because the most important thing is their bottom line. Normally the company, a small company, they will look into a bottom line. Are they capable of sending training? But then again, they must know also, HRD Corp is providing that incentive. They should take that opportunity. See, I think changing the mindset of the industry is a bigger challenge when we are in the federation now. Even like what we embark for the Cebu is in Sarawak. They have this shipbuilding. Even they were given free funding of training to become a competent welder. The industry don't want. to allow the trainee to attend the training, because they believe that once they get the certificate, this trainee will move on. So it's very funny. It's very funny. Now I think all of us must have that mindset to educate. Under Federation now we are educating because most of our members are from SME. We have to educate them to accept that the responsibility of training should be the employer. Employer and the employee. Employee should be also responsible for his own self-directed learning. Employer must support. So I think there's no problem of getting funding from HRD Corp. I think Dato' Shahul was saying billion. There was $1 billion of funding under HRD Corp now. Am I answering your question on that? I think it depends on the company. MNC, there's no problem. Axiata, for example, they are very, that's why I say if we have this manpower planning, looking forward, then you know what to expect, how to prepare the workforce to go up. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Taman. Oh, Dr. Zul. Okay lah, masa kecederaan.
Thank you, Nazrul. Thank you so much
MC
for giving
Tunku
me that opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. Thank you, Dato' and also Cik Aliman and Puan. I think a lot of issues that you raise here is very, very relevant. In fact, I'm from the Malaysian Employers Federations, and we have our own academy that train employees, not students, employees. When even now we have funding from the state government, and Cik Aliman from the Sarawak Business Federation, and we are also working together with Sarawak Skills and any other institution to provide skill-related courses, namely TTT, we have OSHT, we have Excel, Advanced, Intermediate, and so many other communication and dispute resolutions, labor law. But one thing that we find very difficult, this is a free courses for them, funded by the state government under the Sarawak Business Recovery Funding, you call it. I think you're aware of that, right? And it's very hard to get industry to actually send their participant. They only need to pay 100 ringgit. And that 100 ringgit is refunded back to them after the course. Meaning, just to make sure that they come, we ensure that they pay 100 ringgit. And when they finish the course on that day, we refund back the 100 ringgit. And it's very hard to get. I know some companies, they are willing to send, but I believe also that some companies feel that if they train the workers too much, they will become more skilled and they go for another job and they are better pay. That's another issue. At the supply side, I mean at the university, I also used to work in university last year because I retired from the university last year in October and I joined the Malaysian Employers Federation. What we have is, we have students attending internships, which you said 6 months, but we have changed it to 3 months. Some faculties, they put it 3 months. I think 3 months is not enough. And worse still, if you put the student to do internship in the 2nd year, not in the 3rd year. And the argument is that, why we put them in the 2nd year? Because we don't want to affect our graduate, what do you call it? Graduate on time, GOT, I think. I don't know how true it is, but it was mentioned that why we will change the student to do internship during the 2nd year, because we want to make sure that they graduate on time. Because if they do internship at the end of the year, it will not be enough for them to look for a job, so that to catch up that GE, what do you call that, GE KPI or something, graduate employability KPI. So we are so concerned about KPI to the student. In the end, we want them to get out of the university as fast as possible, but without that proper skills and experience or exposure. So another thing on the HRD Corp, I know that HRD Corp support a lot in terms of internship. You provide companies with, I represent the employers, you provide companies some kind of funding, to train students under internships. That is very good. But what about apprenticeships? Yeah, apprenticeship is a more, what do you call that, more in-depth training for the so-called new graduates. It has to be at least 2 years under the law now. Under the labor law, it has to be 2 years. Maybe there is an opportunity also for HRD Corp, for any industry, if we can do some support for apprenticeships. Because apprenticeship is a fresh graduate coming into the university to do apprenticeship, but they are covered by the labor law. Whereas internship, they are not covered by the labor law. So my question is there any move in the future by HRD Corp to look further into this? Because 3 months or 6 months is not enough. I know the university, they are coming up with 2U2I or 2U, now we're going 2U2H. We want students to study at home. I don't believe that actually personally. I would prefer to do 2U2I rather than 2U2H. Because if you do 2U2H, they stay at home, there's nothing much they can learn. Better we go back to U2I. Again, to U2I, we don't have enough support from the industry. Maybe HRD Corp will have some idea on how we can actually move forward into 2U2I or internship or apprenticeship program so that industry will bring in all these students back into the industries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Well, thank you. I think, of course, HRD Corp, we has both internship and apprenticeship. Both programs have been funded by HRD Corp. We have those programs in place. I certainly agree with you. I won't even agree with 6 months. I want the graduates to go for 9 months of internship. Possible 1 year of internship. That's it. I think you see a better employment opportunities for the graduates. You prepare the graduate to go for the jobs. Am I right? And you must be very serious about that particular messaging. If you spend them for the final year or maybe 9 months of internship, you will see 80-90% of the graduates will stay put in the same job. So I think that is the most important thing I think the university should look into. We are talking about, you mentioned about graduate on time. Today is not about graduate on time. Graduate going into university is a big issue. So you must understand the challenges are very different, So people who are doing the regulator, people who are doing policies must understand the real challenges on the ground. We can't be just sitting down and doing things what we used to do before was successful. What is successful last time might not be working anymore now. Today the challenges of the graduates are very different. 49% of the students who are completing SPM, they are not even going into the university. So what are we talking about graduate on time? So the most important is that we must put up a curriculum, we must draft programs that is benefiting the students, that they're able to see the job market. We spoke to a couple of graduates. We asked them, what is the reason that they are not going into the university? The first messaging was, education is very expensive. Number one, this is the real-time feedback. Number two, the graduates are telling we spend 3 years of time, we spend money. After that, we come back, we couldn't get the jobs. But today, if I go back after SPM, I can still earn 2,000 ringgit, 1,500 ringgit as a freelancer or a gig worker. So you see that the pattern of thinking is very different from the regulators and the policymakers. If we don't align ourselves to those young graduates, our Gen Z thinking, I think we will be still talking about graduate on time, whereas we will be missing all the graduates coming into the universities. That's the most important. So we must be agile enough to understand the industry. You must go and listen what is happening on the ground. Then you formulate your policies and your programs. You'll have a better graduates coming up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dato'. I think that comes to a wrap. I'm not sure, MC. I mean, we have another question. I'm not sure. Can we allow that, or we need to wrap now?
Can we continue the session after tea break? Is it possible? Okay.
Maybe last one and a short answer. Short question and short answer, please. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Assalamualaikum, saya Maslina from MMSB Consult, Engineering Consulting.
Sorry, from?
MMSB Consult.
Okay.
Engineering Consultant. Okay, nombor satu, internship, I agree. Tak boleh 3 months, maybe we can drag to 1 year sebab to get the student ready for work. It's very agree sebab siapa yang intern dengan company saya memang struggle to get the job. Sebab bila dia datang cuma ajar dia how to lipat the plan and photostat and copying. Okay. Number 2, OKU internship, OKU graduate. Macam mana kita nak develop them to industry? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, maybe we can take only one question at a time. First question is on internship. I think she gave opinion just now, and on inclusivity, how we want to ensure that the special need talent actually able actually to thrive also in the current space. Yeah.
Well, I've spoken a little bit, large about the internship and apprenticeship, but I want to touch on this OKU. At HRD Corp, we have a special program called OTEP. This is for people who are with the special children, special kids. people with disability. In fact, recently, last week we just completed one program with RHB. It was one of the most successful programs HRD Corp did it, and I was really happy with that particular program. We recruited almost 30 over children, kids with special, special children, who are equally good, but they are born that way. But the industry is not able to accept these people on the job market. And we trained them on a 6 months program, and we started to put them in the respective employers. RHB recruited them, HRD Corp, Touch and Go, Kazana, and many of the employers who came forward, participated in the program, they got those people to work for them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very important. Nobody wants to be born as a special children. No parents want to have a special kid, but it's all God's gift. When they are special, we must treat them with special. And when we train these people, we put them on the job. The parents was there, and she was almost on tears as she said, "My son has a little bit of differences compared to the normal human. He is a little bit hyper. He has attended 200 interviews in the last 1 year. Not even one employer wanted to take them to be on the job." That's very sad. We are talking about inclusivity. We talk about SDGs. These are part of the component of the SDGs. We must look into inclusivity of the workforce. We must give the special care to the kids. There's a lot of opportunity, there are a lot of works they can still do, but the society, the mindset is very different. They are special children, special kids. They have to be kept away from the normal workforce. It is not true. We must give them opportunity. We must adapt them to the system. HRD Corp has a special program. There's a special team in HRD Corp who take care of PWDs in the workforce. I think if you have any challenges, if you have any problems in this industry or this space, come and talk to HRD Corp. We'll help you out. In fact, I've told HRD Corp every month we want to do a special job fair for these PWDs just to train them and take care of them. So that will help them, give them opportunities. A lot of them feel that their life is over. There's no light at the end of the tunnel, so we show them that the future is there. You just need to believe in yourself and move on. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have come to the end of the session, and we had a very good session, I believe, because we have actually overrun for about 15 minutes. So just to conclude, so upskilling is not just a matter of the quantity, but most importantly is actually the quality of the upskilling if you want to stay ahead of the curve. That's the conclusion of what we discussed today. And then secondly, so on the employer side, we discussed a lot about employers' unwillingness actually to send their employee for training. But the question is actually maybe we shift a little bit about the perspective that we are thinking that if we send them for training, they will leave the country. They will leave, not the country, they will leave the company. But the question is, what if they stay and you don't train them? So with that, I would like to thank our distinguished panelists for the discourse that we have just now. I would like to also thank the audience for all good questions that we received. And with that, thank you very much. I pass the session back to MC. Thank you.
To express our gratitude, we have a small token of appreciation to Mr. Nazrul. You can kindly assist us. Thank you. Please join me in giving another round of applause to our remarkable panelists. We shall take a 50 minutes break, and please enjoy the refreshment at the foyer of Dewan Tunku Canselor. Thank you for your attention.
Kita kena ambil gambar dua ni hari ni. Kalau tak ada.
Orang asal. Ini dia megang macam.
Tu apa ni, dia syarah ekonomi. Dia bekas
Yeah, all okay, huh? Why you want to come back and check the cop? Kau dah come back?
Selepas kau keluar, apa ni peng... Ha? Dr. Rohana Jani. Memang tracer study dia tu. Sebab dia dulu dekat KPT.
Oh, yang itu masa bengkel tu ada kan?
Ada.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next session is going to start in 5 minutes. Kindly be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, in June this year, the government of Malaysia launched the TVET Madani portal. Its aim to improve Malaysia TVET ecosystem, including the specific realization of TVET programs in each TVET-related ministry based on demand and marketability data. On that note, please allow to welcome our moderator, Dr. Nur Hairani Abdul Rahman, Senior Lecturer and Project Leader, Faculty of Business and Economics, Universiti Malaya, to call upon her panelists. Dr. Nur Hairani, please welcome.
Okay. I hope everybody is okay now. Since in the morning, So is everyone okay? You can bring the food into the hall, and probably you can enjoy your food while enjoying the session after this. So I think let me welcome our three panelists for next session. Next sessions will be focusing on the topic of applying STEM into TVET workforce. I think previous sessions has discussed a little bit about STEM, how important it is, TVET, you know, so now these sessions will be we'll discuss more in depth in this topic. So let's welcome our first panelist for this session, Dr. Junichi Mori, Chief Technical Advisor, Skills for Prosperity Program in Malaysia, International Labour Organization. All right. Our second speaker, familiar faces in Universiti Malaya, Insinyur Dr. Mas Sahidayana Mokhtar, Director of STEM Center, Universiti Malaya. And our third speaker, Dr. Jasmine Begum, Director of Legal, Corporate and Governance Affairs, Microsoft ASEAN and New Markets. All right, so before I start the session, I think it is good for me to give a brief introductions about our three panelists. Let me begin with Dr. Junichi. All right, Dr. Junichi Mori is currently working as Chief Technical Advisor of the International Labour Organization's ILO for the Skills for Prosperity Southeast Asia Program, Malaysia. His recent career focuses on industry engagement in technical and vocational education and training TVET. As an expert of the Japan International Corporations Agency, JICA, he contributed to developing the sustainable system to upgrade training programs in partnership with industry at Hanoi University of Industry. He also worked as an expert for the Manufacturing Human Resources Development Project in the Dong Nai Province, Vietnam. Right before joining ILO, he was Research Fellow of JICA Ogata Research Institute as the Skill Development Team Leader of a research project. He obtained master's degrees from the Fletcher School, Taft University in the USA, concentrating on development economics and international trade policies, and PhD in social sciences, focusing on skill formations from Cardiff University in the UK. So I believe Dr. Junichi has a lot of experience, has a lot of knowledge related to workforce, skills developments, and of course related to TVET as well, right? All right, our second speaker, Dr. Mas. Is it okay for me to call you Dr. Mas? Okay. Is a senior lecturer at the Center for Innovations in Medical Engineering in Universiti Malaya. Her research, her area of expertise include biomedical engineering, STEM and TVET integrated projects, integrated curriculum designs and framework, and industrial integrated design project. She has 18 years of teaching and research experience and is an expert consultant in various platforms, including in private and government sectors. She has experience in outcome-based education and documentation and is a HRDF trainer. She is also the principal investigator for grants, including grants under International Labour Organization. So I believe Dr. Mas and Dr. Junichi is a friend. I mean, both of them a good friend, I guess. And last but not least, Dr. Jasmine. Dr. Jasmine Begum leads Microsoft Corporate External and Legal Affairs for the ASEAN region. I don't think that I should introduce what is Microsoft, right? Everyone's used Microsoft. With over 28 years of award-winning experience, she brings extensive expertise in legal policy, regulatory engagement, and communication. She is the first Malaysian appointed to the Internet Governance Forum, IGF, Multi-Stakeholders Advisory Group, MAG, and was announced by UN Secretary General in December 2021. She was also honored with inaugural WIMS Tan Sri Napsia Omar Women Leaders Award in November 2022. In July 2023, Dr. Jasmine's commitment to driving positive societal impact was recognized by the community when she received the Global Leadership Award in Malaysia. Dr. Jasmine holds a double degree in law from the International Islamic University in Kuala Lumpur, pursued postgraduate studies in the UK, and earned a PhD in Business and Human Rights with admission to practice law in the state of Washington. She is currently an adjunct professor in several universities across the world. Right. Thank you for joining us for today's session. Right. I think without further ado, let's begin the discussions related to this applying STEM into TVET workforce. Right. I think everyone knows what is TVET, what is STEM, right? And I think everyone believes that it is important for us to secure skills for digital economy. We talk about a lot of things. However, in the current context, many of us are still having huge concern about this STEM and TVET. And in fact, has been discussed many times since yesterday, whether our graduates are able to meet the future requirements, whether we are ready, whether we prepare our graduates, our future generations with future needs, right? So my first questions for Dr. Junichi related to technology, TVET, and training. As technology and automation reshape industry from the standpoint of ILO, how do TVET systems adapt to empowering the vocational workforce of the future, equipping them with versatile skills, digital literacy, and entrepreneurial acumen to thrive in a rapidly changing job landscape while ensuring inclusivity, diversity, and a focus on sustainable practices in emerging sectors? Dr. Juniti?
Okay, I think Michael. So thank you very much, Dr. Hairani. So selamat pagi for all. Nama saya Junichi Mori. So very nice to meeting all of you, and then very nice to see you again, Dr. Mas, my good friends, and then Dr. Jasmine. So thank you. It's quite important and then a difficult question, Dr. Hairani. So what TVET should do to meet the future skills demand, future workforce demand? So maybe I just want to emphasize 3 points. So not too difficult because all of you are expert. First is future skills demand. Maybe it's better to think about the immediate short-term demand first. So immediate short-term demand is a little bit echo to the comment made by Datuk Shafur in the previous session. We also need to think about like a digital technology skills needs, but a bit more feasible one first. For example, of course, Microsoft is a giant, but there are many SMEs. They may look for something they can implement or adapt immediately. Like, for example, IoT is great, but probably they need somebody who help or some skilled worker to install simple technology, feasible one, like attaching the temperature sensor, humidity sensor, getting a data analysis. So even these simple things should be very helpful. Like I have a friend working in a technical college in Japan as a professor. He worked with a lot of the SMEs, and then basically what the SMEs appreciated, so this kind of things. So like how to respond to the immediate skills needs would be one thing. Second is more futures. So definitely we need to anticipate the future skills needs, which is quite difficult, but we still need to do. For this, ILO recommend a sectoral approach to the skills development, because if we try to look at the future skills needs for all the sectors, often like a conclusion is quite general, but if we focus on a specific sector, often like we can get very specific skills needs, and then for example, like those who involve in education and training, including me, it is easier to think about what we should do about curriculum or teaching material. So this is what we promote. Again, like nothing probably totally new, but it's important. Final point is related to what we are doing together with Dr. Mas and the University Malaya STEM Center. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Let me promote a little bit. They did a great job. So although we try to anticipate the future skills needs, I think everybody agrees it's very difficult to really anticipate the future skills needs precisely. To be honest, I may also not know, because only the young people may know what is the future skills needs too. So we may need to admit some uncertainty. So for this, what is very helpful is general skills or generic skills, or in ILO term, we call this as a core skills. If you can look at our website, you can just find out what is the core skills. But like STEM-related generic skills. Specifically, like, for example, the problem-solving skill is very important. I think a human being is talking about the problem-solving skills like 1,000 years, but like a problem-solving skills with a basic statistics or numeracy or math, that could be very helpful still, because this is a transferable skills for very many sectors. So, for example, the TVET graduate can continuously develop their careers in many sectors. So that is quite important. So maybe I just want to emphasize these three things first to facilitate our discussion.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Junichi. At the university levels, we also include those kind of skills like problem skills into our programs, into our teaching and learning activities, so that we can actually assist the students on how they should behave, not only during class, but also after they finish their degrees, right? That is very important. All right, okay, my next questions to Dr. Mas. Data from UNESCO indicated that participations of students in TVET in many countries, including Malaysia, is still low as compared to STEM education, which these include influence the imbalanced supply of TVET workforce in the labor market in the near future. So how should we address this? How can we apply STEM into TVET workforce? Should we revamp our educations to boost workforce in both areas? What do you think?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hairani. I would like to say it's not only TVET, but also STEM. The recent data, only about 15% students enroll in the pure sciences class when they are in Form 4. So when we are talking about the educations, we are talking not only at the graduates level, we are also talking from the cradle to career. We are talking from since they are in the primary schools, secondary schools, then we can get all the supplies that will enter the pathway in the higher education. So in terms of before I want to go for about the word of revamping our education system is quite huge actually. But before we want to go there, actually in terms of our government directions, the planning is there. Our government realized on how many percentage should be in the STEMs related jobs, or how many of them, more of them should be in the TVET related workforce. However, what is happening now is it's a lot of factors and challenges when we want to advocate for this, especially these young kids. Not only for them to enroll in STEM classes, but also for them to further their education. That's a huge thing. I think, in the previous panels forum was also saying almost how many percentage, 60, 70% of our students, they are not really interested into furthering their studies. So that's onto the higher level. But we are talking about even at the schools level. Remember during our pandemic, we even have this gap of generations who are lost, who are not continuing their formal education at schools. It's happening. Okay, so it's something that even bigger when we are talking about education. But let's go back to the STEM and TVET. So we have to understand that for us, even we are human, and the kids are human, the children are human. The way of them, the style of learnings are different. So and everyone have their own expertise in certain things, but what our system should do is how we want to embrace all these differences, and how we want to ensure that those who are with the cognitive ability, those who are read and write learning styles, they might be able to go into the science stream. Those who are in the kinesthetic or visuals or more on the hands-on skills, they might be more well-versed into the TVET area. So these are the things that we want to see. It's not about revamping the overall picture of the education system. It's about how we implement the teaching and how we assess our children. So if we do it properly, we can put them at the right place for them, and they will be more interested in pursuing their studies. That's from the perspective of us. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Mas. Following to that, do you think that we have, we have that in the system, or there's still not there yet?
Okay, that's why I say we have a very nice framework of education. We have a Malaysian education blueprint, everything. The implementation-wise is something that we have to look at. So every one of us, not only on the beholders of the teachers or the schools or the universities, when we're talking about the curriculum, also coming from the industries on how this can be, we can help the system overall. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mas. My next question is to Dr. Jasmine on talent outlook. We all know that skills on the rise are AI, big data, and technological skills. And how would you rate the workforce in Malaysia on such skill? What is the talent outlook, and how does Microsoft cultivate such skills?
Thank you, Doc. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. First, thank you for the opportunity to share our perspective. I would like us to just step back and address two very important points that my fellow panelists have raised. Recognizing the importance of TVET starts with the fact that TVET was created for the analog world. TVET was not created for the digital world. When we looked at education and we looked at TVET, it was created for a world which did not have digital as an underlying change maker driver. Today, we live in a digital world with young people as digital natives. They do not know a disconnected world. And I think that's where we want to start. How do we now make TVET that is relevant for the digital world, right? I think that's where I want to sort of preface my address. The reason being, digital is economy. And let me share some data. Recent numbers show artificial intelligence is going to add 1 trillion to economy in Southeast Asia, 100 billion to Malaysian economy, GDP. It will add additional 100 billion, 366 billion to Indonesia's GDP, right? And these are data. And the only way if we can get the market share of these numbers, of this addition to our GDP, is if we have a talent-ready market. And that's foundational. If digital is economy, we talk about digital economy contributing to the GDP of a nation. But now, increasingly, we are shifting this conversation, and we need to recognize talent is our competitive advantage, TVET or otherwise. So I think I want to preface by looking at TVET at not in the peripheral, but mainstream, right? In whatever we do, we need to address the fact that we have a spectrum of talent from mainstream STEM, talent with TVET, but everyone can be upskilled, reskilled, and cross-skilled. Right? And that is an opportunity that we see, especially, and I was hearing these questions about person with disability, and what more that segment today has greater opportunity because of digital technology. So what do I see as a future? Let me come back to the question. So as far as technology readiness is concerned, Microsoft commits to upskill in 3 big areas today that we do not have enough talent: cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and data science. Underlying all of this is also the power of data. We know for a fact that for jobs created for cybersecurity, we can hardly even fill 1 role. For every 3 roles, we can only fill 1 role, and that is if we are fortunate. Can you imagine jobs that were not there before? A sustainability officer, right? All of this new emerging area has a cross-section, whether it is TVET or not, right? So that is one opportunity that I think it's critical to flag. Dr. Jurisa, you said about how is the simple form, right? The simple formation. Let me give you an example of an experience I had in Indonesia. It's very fascinating. Due to the traffic in Indonesia, in order for them to transfer blood from one hospital to another, it could cost a life. So I worked with the Ministry of Finance. Thank God for Ibu Sri Mulyani, who's the Minister of Finance in Indonesia, forward-looking, and she just brought us in and said, we are going to write this cross-cutting policy. Okay, we bring in Ministry of Finance, we brought in the World Bank, we brought in the Ministry of Health, they own the blood. We brought in the Ministry of Higher Education. We brought in also human resources. And we brought in the civil aviation. The reason being, if we don't put them in a room and write that policy, because we needed to train these ambulance drivers, this new talent, to become drone operators so that blood could be transferred using drone. And that is the kind of talent that you're talking about, this TVET talent, that jobs that were not created in the analog world. And that's what I want to come back to, that the opportunities are so much, but we are still restrained by our analog worldview and force-fitting them into the digital world. And I want to say this very respectfully to the educators, to the policymakers in the room, that will not work. We need digital policies for the digital world, and we need to address it so the opportunities are abundant. It's how we then decide to. Governments still operate in a very siloed way. These policymakers wouldn't have talked if we didn't force the hand and there was a life involved, right? So that's an example to your point about your friend in Japan. Those simple things, operating a drone. You know, when we think about TVET, we think of it in a certain box. We need to break that mold and rethink. And we have done in India, where women in rural area were trained on cybersecurity and have been now been able to get into jobs. So I do think at the outset, underlying that, we need to recognize the power and opportunity of digital infrastructure. Governments now offering GovTech as citizen services, opportunities that are out there, and just rethink that opportunity. I think that would be my introductory remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jasmine, for this excellent answer. All right, because you talk about opportunities abundance, right? And we know that we have the opportunities, but I'm not sure whether we do have the infrastructure, we do have all those things to support the system, to support those opportunities. If that situation is not available, then the opportunities will go on, right? So how we should address it?
So I think there has to be a starting point, right? In this case, in this instance, if I take the Indonesia example, there was will, right? We also had a very forward-looking Minister of Education, Pak Nadiem, who was the former CEO of Gojek, right? Who now is the Minister of Education, who was willing to work to break this mold and say, okay, we cannot be stuck in this loop if it is a matter of life and death, right? Transfer. But we don't need to get to a point of life and death. We can identify pockets of opportunity. Let me give you an example. Food security or food insecurity is real. It's an abundance of opportunity for farming. How do we now bring the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Higher Education, TVET, and all of that, and bring that together for a conversation? Because we do not think of the opportunities. Again, I go back to the fact, and I want to answer your question, where's the starting point? The starting point sometimes, it has to happen if the ministry, or if there is no political or policy will, the industry will run it. Unfortunately, okay, sorry, again, it's an Indonesian example. We were able to skill up farmers in Indonesia, actually, and we used students, TVET students, to skill them up, right? To help the farmers transform. But on hindsight, if I think back, why are we not doing that? It's because we also look at this, again, it is a question of life and death. It's a question of food security for Indonesia, but it is a question of food security for all of us, for Malaysia too. But we would not link it. The starting point for me, in Indonesia, I must say, the startup community is robust. They want to employ people, so there is that demand. So there is an ecosystem challenge, I recognize. But I do think if we are able to create this talent will not only serve Malaysia, it will serve as a regional talent and a global talent. That's I think, the approach we want to take.
All right. Okay, thank you, Dr. Jasmine, for your answer. Let's go back to Dr. Janichi. On prospect of TVET, Future of Job report indicates that large-scale job growth is expected in education, agriculture, and digital commerce and trade. Jobs in the education industry for vocational education teachers, university and higher education teachers then will receive a lot of attention then. What is your advice, Dr. Janichi, to higher education, especially public university, in particular research university in Malaysia?
Okay. So again, it's a big, difficult question. I just want to clarify. I guess your question is how to secure the skills utilization opportunity. Probably how to reduce underemployment. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay. So again, maybe all of the experts have a different answer, but let me emphasize a few points. How higher education or TVET can do to secure the skills utilization opportunity, because maybe many skilled people, but they may not have a job or opportunity to utilize their skills or knowledge. So first, maybe better to think about skills demand side and then the supply side. Obviously, supply side is education and training, which many of us are in. So about the supply side, of course, we need to think about the quality of the education and training, but maybe you discuss all, but from my point of view, first about the emphasis of the creativity. Again, nothing new, but I think it's still very important because I used to work in the industry, electric and electronics industry. Of course, we need people with creativity. Creativity more for the innovation side because, of course, industry do a lot of the market research, but eventually we need somebody who can create a demand itself. There are pro and con, but like Steve Jobs. You know, while I was in the electronics industry, I never thought about the iPhone. It was really path-breaking for me because, yeah, so it's something totally new, and then it created demand. So we need those people. Another sort of creativity is more like a hands-on creativity, because I was in more for manufacturing sector, but we had a daily problem. To solve the problem, we need a creativity, because there are a lot of the constraints to solve the problem. To solve the problem, many people say we don't have money, we don't have equipment, we don't have people. Nothing new, but we need creativity to solve the problem in those kind of the constraints. Again, that's something Dr. Mas has been doing. So the creativity is still important. So another thing is resilience. What do I mean by resilience? Is I think to create something new product, like a young entrepreneurs, venture, they face a lot of the challenges because many people will fail. So trial and error process are there. So there are not many people. I think even some people who success, they experience some challenges and then came back. So we need people who have a resilience. And I really hope education and training institution can train more people with resilience. So for this, we need to give more opportunity for the student to have a trial and error, because we need to fail and then we need to learn. But often, let's say in a TVET institution, what will happen is my experience, we buy the expensive equipment for training, but our instructor hesitate to let the student to use those equipment because they are afraid student will break it. It is true, I fully understand, but we still need to try. So, and then maybe what we can do more is like a project-based learning. Again, nothing new, but through the project, young people can learn more about what is a failure, how to overcome it. So maybe in higher education, you may have already a lot of the project, graduation project, probably, but that is something a little bit lacking in TVET in general. So that's the second point. And then final point is international exposure. I think University of Malaya is fully internationalized. I know you are ranking too, but still international exposure is very important. Let's look at what people surrounding me, like Dr. Jasmine, Dr. Mas. like in my case too, when my first international exposure is when I was at college, I was in the UK. So that is where, by the way, it's many time ago, that's where I first learned about how to operate a PC. By the way, Dr. Jasmine, at that time I used Microsoft DOS, like a black screen. You may know how old am I. But then I use Windows. Wow, I'm amazed. But unfortunately, my home country in Japan, I think my university was a decent lab, but we didn't have a computer lab. So then I went back to Japan. So I was a little bit ahead from my other student because I already knew how to operate PCs. Then also in the US, my first exposure was like social network, Facebook. Somehow I was in Boston, so at that time Facebook just launched. I learned, so then this gave me a bit of the exposure. What about Malaysia? I was in Malaysia 20 years back when I was in private sector. Maybe nothing new for you, but actually I was amazed by touch and go. At that time, like Malaysia has a touch and go. In my home country in Japan, we didn't have a touch and go. So wow, this is a great. Of course, now in Japan, we have a somewhat similar for touch and go technology. So what I see is, we often say like a developed country, developing country, but the reality is there's a variety of the speed. It is not necessarily developed country have all the advanced technology. So it's really good to see the other country, what is going on. We always learn something from the other country. So it's really good to have international exposure, although like many of young people may have, but it's good to have it. So thank you, that's my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Junichi, for all 3 points that you shared with us. I'm interested to know more about 2 things, creativity and also international exposure. The first one is creativity, right? I think I always thought that creativity, you were born with creativity. You were born with you are creative. If let's say you were born with that kind of skills, it's really difficult to train people with creativity. And I think one of you also mentioned that creativity will, bring you into innovations, those kind of things, which related to your idea about how Indonesia, create using drone to transfer the blood. So that comes from creativity, which not many people. Necessity, right? So how we can break these walls to make sure that everyone has that skills,
Great questions. Natural born creativity. Of course, if you want to be a Nobel Prize laureate or a genius, yes, it is true. But again, creativity could be quite in different levels. So I think everybody have a creativity. I want to believe I have a certain creativity too, although I'm not a genius at all. So I think it's good to appreciate these small creativity when people demonstrate it. Even in Tibet, like often in the vocational training, we tend to focus on something in the front, like a very tangible one, very hands-on one. But for example, I think, again, Dr. Mas has experienced this, but I worked in Vietnam for like 7-8 years. Of course, I show some teaching tools. Then, of course, they adapted. But what I see is when they adapted to their context in their way, I was quite impressed and I enjoyed because that's something I couldn't do and then they did it. So it's a sort of a creativity. Of course, you may say it's just an incremental change, but for me, it's a creativity. So it's very important to appreciate it, and then people will be very confident to show their creativity. So, but I guess Dr. Mas may have other more input.
Dr. Mas, would you like to add anything?
Actually, I would like to include Dr. Junichi's point and also like what you were asking to Dr. Jasmine earlier, when we should start or how, with all these challenges in terms of infrastructure and so on. This is where the creativity comes. So we have to be honest. Yeah, I do agree. When you have a policy support, it's going to make things faster. But when we do a bottom-up approach, regardless with or without the infrastructure, you have to instill these logical thinkings. You have to instill all these types of like skills that will, enhance the creativity of the students, the teachers, the lecturers, and so on. So we have to use whatever, support at that time or at that level, or whatever infrastructure where you can get. If you can get a table, then you have to think how to use this table in order for us to get towards the digital skills later on. Even though the road might be far, but you have to instill something. So, and one more thing, I think it's another thing that I think when Dr. Junichi mentions, how we want to talk about creativity is very abstract, but when you do in a team, when you work in a team, these things can happen faster. So you might not, don't put every single burden on your shoulders alone. So especially, for example, in the education, especially in the TVET area, or when we want to include the STEM-related generic skills towards the digital economy, let's say, we have to work in a team. I think that's the part that, as a bottom-up approach, that's a very important kind of like the way of we have to do it, rather than waiting on the policymakers or the governance support. It should come maybe later, but we have to start anyway. Okay.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mas. On your third point, international exposure, right? I was the mobility program coordinator. So to be honest with you, I think everyone's, also have similar situations where during our time when we were student, we usually don't really want to go to another countries to learn whatever the opportunities there. And in fact, it happens until now where it's really difficult to get our students to participate in international programs, go for their, exchange program. It's really difficult. So how can we address these kind of situations? Our students I know that we have quite numbers of students are interested. In fact, they are very eager, ask me a lot of questions, but majority of them do not want to be involved in this international exposure. So what do you think?
Okay, well, thank you so much for, I fully understand because I recently get a few inquiries from my old friend, like one of my friends working for the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. She said that she wants to encourage the young students to go to overseas, but again, same problem. Another friend working in university who tried to encourage the young people to go there, but not many are interested in. So, again, apart from my current job, international organization, that's why sometimes Japan was called the Galapagos Island. Do you know? The Galapagos Island, people are very comfortable in the current place, so they don't want to go out. So that's why they have quite a unique development. Well, it's just a cynical story, but quite difficult. But I really have a clear-cut answer for this. But of course, government, teachers have an important role to still, encourage. But maybe like a student to student too. I'm not so sure about the situation in Malaysia, but what I see, again, sorry, in my home country, Japan, because I have many friends teaching in the university, they saw is some of the students are super excellent, even much better, he said, much better than you, to be honest. So they're quite good, but the others are very domestic. So there are disparities are there. So maybe how to promote more interaction could be the one thing. Time change, look at my time. I was a very domestic young people. I just do whatever I can do in Japan. Again, I had a good score in math, mathematics, and then physics. What I had in the lowest score is, to be honest, English. So, but when I entered the university, one of my friends are very outside looking. So in my time, studying in abroad is not so easy, to be honest. But he said that I want to study in abroad, particularly in the US. So he inspired me. So that opened up my way toward here. So it's good to share the experience between a student. Maybe you're already doing, but that's something I can immediately respond. So again, it's good to understand fun to be in a multicultural environment. That's actually why I'm in the United Nations. Working or studying in a multicultural environment, I hope it's not recording, but sometimes so much mess, very difficult, chaotic, but very enjoyable. I learned a lot from different perspectives. Maybe I can break through my own comfortable place. So yeah, just sharing experience still, I hope it works.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Junichi. Yeah, Dr. Mas.
No, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll continue once you
All right.
ask the next question.
Okay. Next questions for Dr. Mas. Thank you, Dr. Junichi, for your input. Dr. Mas, this is on the sustainable future workforce. Okay, and there are many other issues surrounding STEM, TVET, and future workforce, and we have done a lot for the future to meet the future needs. But the more we try, the more challenges, issues, problems happened after we try, and that could hinder sustainable future workforce. Okay, and how can we create a more sustainable future workforce in the context of applying STEM into TVET to achieve stronger and resilient labor workforce in the future?
Thank you very much. Actually, I want to get to bring up the points of Dr. Jasmine, Dr. Junichi, when he was saying about the internationalizations. And remember what Dr. Jasmine was laying out, our preface foundation. Remember, this generation, they're already connected. They can go and find Fuji Island through the Google, or they can go through across the internet. And even now, we also have the technology. One of the technology that they are doing, they're using metaverse to go and buy things at Pasar Siti Khadijah. For example, now we are moving towards that. We are moving towards this world beyond border. It's not about physical. Yes, we wanted them to go out and have a physical, interactions with other countries as well. But at the same time, we also have to see from their perspective, they are a different generation. So it comes towards when you were asking about the sustainable of the future workforce, because they are not, this generation, when we engage with them, when we are with them, they are not like maybe the previous generation where when they are talking about job, that's the job, they are going to be in that job for 30 years, get pension from it, and then retired. This generation, no. It's not the way that they are looking at this such job. They are talking about, hey, I want to get experience. Hey, I want to learn about new things. I'm going to enter the job. Imagine after they graduate, they can wait for 6 months before they actually really working for some company. Because within that 6 months, they can do all the gig economy job. They can do a lot of things. So these generations, we have to kind of tackle them differently. So it's not, so when we are talking about the sustainable workforce, we also talking about, of course, we have to ensure that coming from the demand side, they have to be sustainable, right? Because we want them, for our supply of graduates, our supply of talent should also meet what they want. But at the same time, we have to find a middle line where both sides can benefit from each other. So, for example, I would like to say, in some countries, when I was in Australia, they have a different scheme of job. They call it permanent part-time. For us, now we're working at the government sectors, it's just a permanent job. It's a permanent post where you have to come 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, and then you're doing one same job every single now until maybe 20 to 30 years, and then you get your pension. But why don't we turn around and think about how the jobs should look like? Why can't someone be a permanent job, but they're only working for that particular job for 3 days in a week? Why can't we allow them to have another part-time job for 2 days in a week so they can also learn from a different industry? So all these things has to come in parallel and we have to understand the generation now. Same goes to the industries. Why can't we think about, we got a permanent staff, but he or she will only come 3 days. The other 2 days, he can gain another experience. But of course, you have to do all the technical paper, all the legal binding and so on, that's fine. But all the framework have to change. When we're talking about jobs and work, it has to change. We are now being disruptive with this gig economy. We are being disruptive with all this the kids now are doing the remote job. They can get hundreds of ringgit and thousands of ringgit just by playing e-sport. And now they are becoming all this, on top of that, they are now have YouTubers, TikTokers, and all those things. These are very interesting for them. So they don't have to go anywhere. They just have to sit in their room, using their competence on. This is the digital economy that you were saying. But why can't we integrate and embed this with the current or conventional jobs that we have? So I think we have to go beyond. So not only like just looking the way it is now. So we have to go think further, because it will happen sooner or later. Yeah.
And then also when we talk about sustainable future workforce, since we talk about technology, science, and it grows very fast, and what they learn at the university might be different, a little bit different, or probably like a huge different, then how we can actually, address this situation?
Yeah, so not only talking about the kids, we're also talking about us, the lecturers, the teachers, the educators. We also have to change. So it's time. So we have to be more creative. We have to work with a team. We have to work with other friends. We have to work with the industries. Thank you very much. I have a lot of experience working with Dr. Junichis, because you have a different perspective coming from the demand side. And we also like working with Microsoft. So we, as the educators, this is the time when, like you said, upskill ourselves, reskill ourselves. So this is not only talking about the one that we teach, also for us, the educators.
All right. Okay, thank you, Dr. Mas, for your answer. Next question, Dr. Jasmine. Microsoft have been working very close with schools and universities to close the STEM gap. How do we increase the collaborations to make a difference? And what is your advice to higher educations? We have many public universities, private universities here, so I hope they can, learn something.
Thank you. I do want to recognize, I just celebrated 30 years being called to the bar yesterday. My mother, of course, remembers, I forgot, being called to, so I graduated with a law degree in 1992, International Islamic University. I didn't have my own laptop. We had to go to the computer lab in the Islamic University, I think, to do my assignment. And just reflecting back, right? 30 years ago, we were not trained on digital laws. A month ago, I had to review a space law. I was not trained on space law. I was trained on very traditional House of Lords, MLJ laws from Malaysia, and today I'm advising on American laws, civil laws, common law, Islamic laws, right? And I was just reflecting back, a 30-year journey where the legal space has changed, but the teaching of legal has not changed. It's very traditional, and that's not limited to the legal faculty, the law faculty. I think generally, there is a challenge, right? We teach in a certain way, hoping for a different outcome, which is not genius, I think, right? We are facing with different circumstances. And coming back to the question on collaboration, I think that's where industry collaboration brings the employability part of it. Several years ago, I was working in one of the countries in Asia, I think it's either Cambodia or Laos, where they were looking at skilling scholarships, where the government was building into their budget skilling scholarship. They give the normal scholarships, but they also thought about this micro-credential scholarship so that students are inspired to take them, and they are given scholarship. And getting a scholarship is still seen as something that's prestigious. A skilling scholarship that brings together the universities, university and the industry, getting a joint recognition, the kind of micro-credential that becomes something for them to become relevant, right? And whether it is STEM or TVET, we are living in a world where everything is becoming smart or smarter, right? If you look at smart homes, a person who used to repair aircon, or what used to be this old world jobs, and I say this respectfully now, that job, even the job of a repairman, of a aircon repairman has changed, because now you are dealing with smart aircons, you are dealing with smart IoTs, points, smarter information, because now you have preventive ways to ensure there's no breakdown. It's not being just, I come in to do the repair work, but now the data that you feed me will allow me to do preventive maintenance. So the value of this job has just gone up, right? So how do we now ensure that there is that collaboration, not only in a systemic way, but also in a way that's thoughtful, that takes into consideration industry bodies? And I want to come back to what both of you said about, we can do peanut butter, happy, but it's industry depth that we don't have, right? So I think the industry partnership is critical, but industry bodies have to play a bigger role. I think Dr. Junichi talked about a partnership with FMM, Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, and other industry bodies. I was speaking on artificial intelligence to chief human resource officers of Malaysian banks. It was very interesting, because the biggest challenge is, just like how tellers, the role of tellers have changed, with ATM machine, what will now become of employees, banking employees? So, and what is the role of AI? And how do we need to reskill banking employees? So these are conversations that we are having. And as I think about industry and industry body linkages, I think industry body needs to be brought to the 21st century, right? We need industry bodies to be relevant for now, and not try to, make slight changes. And the partnership with industry is critical, and industry cannot be sitting here and complaining, I don't have talent, therefore I cannot invest. And I think if, in our example, and I can share this, in 2021, Microsoft announced that we are investing in Malaysia, our first Azure region data center. We partnered with Talent Corp, we partnered with HRD Corp, we partnered with many agencies. Our commitment at that point was to skill up 1 million Malaysians by 2023. We have reached, I think, 800,000. But to get 800,000 people trained and skilled wasn't easy. To your point, people want to do gig job. Why do they want to go and get skilled up into this complex skilling that, just... So we need to ensure that the job employability of our citizens, of our young people, is not limited to what is here, right? It has to be a global opportunity. It is an opportunity for you to be able to work from anywhere. And that's what, we are not showing the potential enough. I know what industry says, we don't have talent. Why are you not investing in Malaysia? Not enough talent. It's a chicken and egg. No job, no talent. No talent, no job. What is this vicious cycle, right? So what is within our control? We can skill up. Because at the end of the day, and this was, I was reading a recent report from India where, it's very interesting, they are treating, not cybersecurity, artificial intelligence as a national security agenda. And I wanted to understand what was the thought process of the Indian government of saying that AI workforce as a national agenda. Then I realized as a security agenda, because they don't want the data to be not handled by non-citizens. Sensitive data, critical national infrastructure data, which I think is smart. Look, every country wants to protect their nation, their borders, which I understand. But the thought process is so advanced. And I was talking recently to a professor from Stanford who suddenly introduced a new course called prompt engineering. You know why? Because junior developers are going to lose their jobs because of AI. So they're now teaching prompt engineering. So it comes back to being relevant for today, having that agility to say, okay, I'm going to shift course now because I cannot teach IT the way I used to teach. So suddenly we have people who are interested in, okay, I need to go and learn. Maybe should I learn prompt engineering? Because I am talking on platforms, you know. I got my son's certification last year. It was hard. I have zero technical knowledge, right? I'm a trained lawyer and I have technophobia. For me to learn cybersecurity sounds level 3. Okay, also ambitious. We go straight to level 300. But it took time, right? But that's what we need to do. We need to be able to get out of that comfort zone, but we need to provide new incentives. Because the easiest thing to do is become influencer. You know, when in my job, an influencer is a person who advocates for policy. But the TikTok influencers and the media, social media influencers think that's the future. But we need to be able to also provide for that you can be an expert, can be an influencer. What's our national brand? What's our brand for our workforce? We don't have that. We don't have that national aspiration for our workforce. And that's also a challenge.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jasmine, for your lengthy explanations on that questions. All right. My last rounds for Q&A before we move to open the sessions to our audience. I think it's a bit controversial because we always talk about STEM and TVET. Most of the time, majority of them, filled by men compared to women. So they talk about gender inequality in STEM and TVET, right? So Dr. Junichi, another major issues that we face in STEM and TVET fields is gender equality. Women is underrepresented in STEM and TVET fields. In your opinion, why this happened? How can we reduce this imbalance or inequality in order to achieve equal participations in STEM and TVET workforce?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. It's a great questions because promoting the gender equality is definitely one of the most important role of the United Nations, including the ILO where I work for. So why? Maybe I just want to mention 2 issues. First is about job opportunities or skills utilization opportunity or barrier to enter the job market. Utilize a STEM. Probably many people may somehow sense it. Second is about the career progression opportunity. So first about opportunity to get, let's say, like a STEM job. If this is lower for the women, of course, not many people may want to enter to that field. So I guess this still there because of the so-called gender stereotype. Or like we say, gender-biased occupations or trade selections. So many people think, oh, this job should be more suitable for men. This may not be for women. So these things often happen. So like some sectors are male-dominated. So it is very important to ensure the equal opportunity for the men and women, particularly for women. So let's say like a construction sector where we are working for, construction sector is heavily dominated by male, and then many of our partners say like, oh, this is for the men, it's not very suitable for women. But it's not entirely true. Let's say like we look at some occupation like a site safety supervisor. We can see some very competent female or women site safety supervisor that can manage even a site. In some company, like for example, like a large company like Gamuda, I had some interaction with an excellent female engineer who can even operate a shield machine to make a tunnel. Or even like she's promoting an industrial building system. So there's a potential, so we better to provide an equal opportunity regardless of gender. That's quite important. Second would be the career progression opportunity should be equal too. I guess if there's even like you can get a job, but if there's no continuous career progression opportunities are there, probably many of the women may hesitate to go into the STEM field. I think that could be there here too. So in case of the women, we need to consider that there might be some occasion for the career break because, because of the pregnancy, maternity leave. Of course, we got to promote the paternity leave too. But Understanding that, I think together, I think we need a tripartite cooperation like employer side, government, of course, workers' organization is very important to ensure the continuous career progression path. What shall we do? We really hope many companies provide some career progression path, even easy one for the women that makes women will be more motivated. And then the second is upskilling opportunity. Actually, Dr. Jasmine mentioned about micro credential. That could be the one way to do, because by attending those micro or even shorter training, even with a career break, some women in a STEM field can continue their career, can get a certificate, accumulate a certificate or qualification. So, yeah, in fact, for this, we are working in the Federation of the Malaysian Manufacturers in the food processing areas. We try to provide a micro credential in cooperation with the Ministry of Human Resources. So, but anyway, this is what we can do. Might be small, but as Dr. Jasmine said, we can promote continuous career progression for the women to break the barriers we have at this moment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vinici. On the same topic, Dr. Mas, what do you think?
Thank you very much, Dr. Hairani. It's always like become to our like puzzle or ponder. When you see the enrollment in higher education, you have more women or girls. You know, you can see the data is there. Or even that we have the, you know, when you see the enrollment across all the 20 public universities plus the private universities, you can see the gap like twice or triple girls are entering the higher educations. Plus also some like the TVET institution. Of course, we are not talking about a certain TVET in the certain sectors like oil and gas or certain sectors of mechanical or really into the hardcore job. So that we can see like a burst of boys or men in that sectors. So I would like to just share one experience. Once, you know, we have this event with Dr. Florence Tan. Dr. Florence Tan, she's the designer for the NASA going to Marek Hoover. She was from Malaysia more. She was saying, in order for her to get a maternity room at NASA, it's taking much more longer time as compared she's developing the machine. So the point is, we have women talents that can embark into the STEM and TVET sectors or TVET workforce or place and so on. But we also need every single partners, industries, government, to really look into what are the facilities, infrastructures provided in order for the women to progress in their career. Okay, even yesterday when DOSM was presenting the data, right, they only show the data because they can get the median salary. They show that the median salary for the man is a bit higher from the woman. Because of what? Women tend to stop working at earlier age as compared to the man. Why is that? So we have to ask the questions, because we wanted more, Dr. Jasmine, to be at a high level of the office, because we want more talents of women going up the ladder. Because if not, women always like, we think we have like many things that we put inside our brain. So when we have to decide between the quality of life, between a family and our job, most likely we are going to choose the two earlier. Our family, the quality of life that we can get, rather than pursuing on a higher level of our career if there's no enough support coming from our employer. So this is something that I think all of us have to work on it, or at least getting more on the policy side or guideline side on how we want to make women can progress more in the career. So when we progress, many more can go into the workforce. So that's what I think we should need, because in Malaysia we have bright women. We have a lot of them, even at schools, at higher educations and so on. On another point of view, I also have to become advocate for the men. I need to say this because now when we are working at a higher institution, it's hard for me to find a boy or man wanted to pursue their. So we also need to help, or not help, it's just like have to advocate not only the women's right, also the men's right, in order for them to encourage them, more of them, to pursue in the study, to pursue in this, at least a higher level education and so on. So on both sides, we have to look at it so it's more fair. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mas. Since Dr. Mas talk about rights, it is your area. You specialize in human rights. What do you think about gender inequality, Dr. Jasmine?
Excuse me. I object vehemently to any inequality, especially gender, in the field that I am in, technology. Women are seen as second-class citizens, so we need to stand on our toes to get attention and the stereotype, woman, Asian, everything that you throw in. But that's an opportunity, and I want to quote Dr. Ngozi. Dr. Ngozi, who's the WTO Director General, who said, "I love to be underestimated." That's a superpower, when somebody underestimates you and you surprise them, right? A short bite about Dr. Ngozi. Dr. Ngozi is the first female Director General of WTO. President Trump refused to swear her in. President Biden got her into WTO, right? But for her to stand up as the first woman, African, right, to be the WTO Director General, that is what she says, right? It's okay that people underestimate you, but the response is with you. Just because someone is saying that you are not smart, it doesn't mean you are not smart. The response is for you to control. So inequality is an atrocity, an atrocity to humanity. And from a gender inequality, can you imagine if a woman has to face inequality, a woman with disability has to face greater inequality, right? So we recognize this, and this is a systemic issue. And if there's Ministry of Higher Education here or Ministry of Education, they know I've been for years advocating mainstreaming people with disability into the economy. The reason being, nobody wants to be a case for charity. Malaysia is one of those countries that we have put disability in welfare. It should be a case for economy and not a case for charity, right? So coming back to a point of gender inequality, women don't get hired for potential. Men get hired for potential. Women don't get hired for potential. And women are the over-mentored. Women get mentored all the time. But what is the outcome? We are so mentored, so much mentoring is given to us, but it is to no end. So the way I see, and people have been my allies. Secretary General Kofi Annan was my ally. He pushed me, right? Yeah. So I worked in the UN, in the office of the Secretary General, when Secretary General Kofi Annan was the Secretary General of the United Nations. He was my ally. He gave me a place at the table, and this was almost 20 years ago. Every one of us have a duty to extend that table. We cannot wait for government to come and change policies. And that's my response, right? If we believe it's a human rights issue, it's systemic. We can do something about it, or we can do nothing about it. My response is, it's everybody's duty. If I can do something to enable another person, man or woman, person with disability or not, that's me advancing something. So that's how my response would be, because every one of us have a choice in our response. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jasmine. My last question for Dr. Jasmine, probably because earlier you mentioned about AI and even previous sessions also discussed about humanizing technology. Okay, so the next question is related to human and AI, of course. As AI continues to advance, how can society and industries ensure a harmonious integration between artificial intelligence and the human workforce, fostering an ecosystem where both can coexist synergistically to leverage their respective strengths and drive innovation while addressing potential challenges such as job displacement, ethical considerations, and the evolving concepts of work in the future?
Thank you. This has been my favorite question. People ask me this question in the last 6 months since ChatGPT was released. I have been invited to multiple panels and I get this question. I had a tough panel yesterday, but this is a much easier question. So I want to, sitting in this hall, right, and one of the oldest institutions in the country, I want to challenge respectfully the educators in the room. Behind every good AI, there is a great human, right? Behind every great AI, there is a great human. Universities and educators have an opportunity to shape that great human, right? We have an opportunity to educate, to shape that. The question can be, whose values, Eastern or Western? The important thing is you inculcate good values, right? Responsible artificial intelligence, responsible AI is what we are talking about. The European Union is debating the AI Act right now as we speak. Malaysia has issued the AI roadmap with 7 principles, and well-being and happiness is being one. I was very fortunate to be part of the drafter of that roadmap. And to me, for us to be able to respond to this, we need to look at 3 things. AI is here to stay. We just need to make sure there are guardrails in place. And it's not to impede innovation or creativity. We need guardrails because the technology, we don't know the extent of that technology. Therefore, we need guardrails. It's like having a highway, you know, or road. Why do you need this super miracle of a traffic light? Because you want some regulation, right? We don't look at a traffic light and say it's impeding my movement, but you need that guardrail. Number 2, we need to be aware of what are the opportunities and what is our contribution. We cannot just be consumers of technology. We need to have responsible innovation as part of our DNA. We need to be able to inculcate that. And thirdly, we need to empower people. And if we look at it, if we look at meaningful technology, today it's AI, tomorrow it's quantum computing, whatever that comes out in the future, it has to, values are timeless, right? And that whether you are online or offline, that is what we want to sort of put as an underlying factor. And educators have a duty to ensure that you are creating great humans who create great AI.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jasmine. Interesting answer points that you have highlighted just now. All right, so I think we still have time for Q&A session. If you have any questions, probably you can go to the microphone and ask the questions and probably choose which panelists you want to pose the questions to. Any questions? No questions? I guess no questions. Oh, okay.
Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon to all the panels. Thank you for your enlightening thought presentations on that. I'm Aniza Isha from Universiti Malaya. I have questions, short questions to any of the speakers that willing to take the questions. Yeah. So at the end of the day, after discussions, so many discussions, yeah, we've been trying so hard, embedded the industry needs, yeah, into the academic institutions. We bring all the industry thought, practice to combine with our curriculum. Yeah. For example, we have the elite program, which the industry member comes to our faculty and give guest lecture to our students. We have adjunct professors. We have industry experts, yeah, to consult or to advise in our curriculum review. Yeah, we have so much. We've been doing so much. But at the end of the day, we are still discussing about the mismatch, the skill mismatch between the academia, the graduates in our system. That's one. Another one is the future works, which we are talking about digitalized concern, digitalized world. At the end of the day, it brings, for me, it seems to me, it's create job loss and job gain. Yeah, when you, for instance, as simple as when you go to a restaurant, you don't see any waiters anymore, for instance. You just use your smartphone and you can order your menu there. Yeah, so the support needs to be there. For me, the support needs to be there. I agree with the humanized technology. I agree with the tripartite system, environment, but it seems it's still lacking. We need to work more on that partnerships. Yeah. So another thing is the economics environment. Yeah. The wages are stagnant. The global economics are doomed, cloudy, and the job employability are limited. Yeah? So I don't know what is the best practice, what is the best approach that any of the speaker can suggest to us. Yeah? How can we enhance the tripartite and overcome all these issues currently? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aniza.
I think I'll talk because the curriculum, the first question. Okay, I think I'll be touching a bit on the question number 1 and the question number 3 a bit. But later than the others, I think both of you can answer better than me. Okay, I think that's our job as an educators, right? We have to provide the most things, knowledge, attitudes, skills that we can provide to our students. To be honest, I think skill mismatch and so on, it will be always there, because because the world is fast changing, the industry is fast changing. So, of course, the graduates will always need to cope with the new skills. So this is the lifelong learning part that we have to embed. Hey, when you graduate, it's not necessary you are really ready for the job market as it is, or suddenly you become the CEO and so on. You are embarking into another journey that you also will still need to learn. This is, I think, what our role as educators. We need to do all those things, like the ELE, the industrial engagement. We have to do the most thing that we can do. But like once they are graduating, we hope that we have equipped them with all the things that they should be able to embark into a new journey. So it's not something that we can control. And of course, it will have a lot of discussion, but I think that's what we can do. Another second, the second point that I want to touch on, the third questions. That's why there's an effort from us, from the STEM Center, for example, when we go to the school, even to the schools level, we are putting in their mind, you are a prosumer, you are an innovator, you are an entrepreneur, you are creating a job. Don't wait for the job is ready for you in 20 years later. So this is the things that we have to put in mind on our kids, children, from the schools level to the higher education level. So we need to create. I know it's a very daunting thing when we're talking about the economies and everything. Oh, it's too huge. Because my husband is economist, it's always get fraction when you're talking with the economist people. But then we realize that, okay, hey, why don't we create our own path? So I think this is the thing that the younger generation, and especially us, the educators, have to put in mind. This is the time. we have to create what will happen in 10 years, 20 years, 5 years maybe. So not waiting for the opportunities to come. Right.
Sure. I will attempt. I pointed to Dr. Junichi because he's United Nations. That was a big question the UN should be addressing. But let me take a stab at this. Most of us, when we graduated with our degree, it had a life cycle of maybe 10 to 15 years. The longevity of your degree, the relevance, maybe 10, 15 years. Today, the life cycle of a degree is less than 2 years. If you are lucky, you know, if you do one of those high-tech degrees. And that's a reality, and it's not something we can solve overnight, right? Because whether educators, children who are being educated, young people who are being educated, realize it or not, the technology is waiting for no one, right? It will grow at the speed of pandemic, some say, you know, but what is it that we can do? And I want to quote this fantastic example in NUS. NUS has set up a school called SCALE, School of Continuous Learning and Education, I think it's called SCALE, NUS SCALE, and they have given SCALE the equal status of a law faculty and a medical faculty. So lifelong learning then becomes a national agenda. It becomes a national sports. It's not that I pass, cukup makan, you know, I'm saying just enough, pass enough. And you know, you're happy to be out. It has to be a national sport. Being able and willingness to learn continuously is not something that it's culture, right? It's not that it's alien to us. We learn all the time. Our children go to sekolah mengaji, they go to all of these different schools. It just cannot stop after graduating, right? Yes, the economy is daunting. Yes, situation is not great, but there is always an opportunity for us to identify. Let me give you an example of an opportunity. With the geopolitics of the US-China tensions, a lot of the investment that goes into China now shifts into a China plus one strategy. Right? Investors are looking to invest in other markets. Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, these are opportunities. We speak fairly good English. For these investments to come, we need to have the right talent. I'm not saying universities should produce the talent. We should have a system where those who are coming in are also thinking about those. So while it is a daunting situation, the macroeconomics of things, and we need to identify what are those pockets of opportunity. Malaysia introduced MSc before anybody talked about digitalization and technology. We talked about MSc status, right? So there are opportunities, and I am an optimist. You know, half glass full, always I see opportunity. What else can I add it, right? So life gives you lemon, we turn it into teh or limau ice. That's what we are, right, Malaysians? So what do we do? What are those opportunities? I think we don't have I think the most important mindset here is how do we ensure our graduates are competitive? They have the basic skills. I'm sure universities are producing students who have skills. The more important skill is how do we make sure they are competitive? I think that's my response.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, yeah, because I speak last, because I expected, I just took advantage of that to as excellent speakers. So, well, as a first question about the industry engagement, industry and then education, that's a question is always there. I started my career in industry. When I was in industry, I always said like, oh, education quality is not good. They should educate people more according to our needs. Then later I moved to the TVET institutions. Okay, now I found what I was saying in the industry is a little bit too much. So then I'm now in the middle. So I really echo what Dr. Mas and then Dr. Jasmine said. It is virtually impossible to make a skills gap zero. So it will be there because the industry demand is always ahead. then sometimes education may chase it. But it is not necessarily a bad thing. So skills mismatch or skills gap, if there are certain gap, means actually we have a demand. So it's not always bad. So let's be realistic on that. So on the other hand, of course, education and the training institution, of course, need to do a lot to meet the industry's demand. I fully understand the difficulty to change a curriculum, again, like Datuk Shafur clearly mentioned. Then I was also in part of that system. So even like changing the curriculum will be difficult, but we may have other tools like extracurricular activity, short-term course, micro-credential. So what we may need to do is try all other options. I guess you are already doing, but that might be something we can do. Unless maybe we may have AI to change the curriculum standard immediately possible. But again, for this I echo we need a safeguard. So anyway, this might be the future. Second, to meet the industry needs is very important. But when I had a discussion with my previous colleague, some of my colleagues said, like, oh, industry needs are there, very diverse. In terms of the level, what can we do? So answer is, we listen to the industry, but the decision is us. So we listen, we try to incorporate. But the education side definitely need to make a strategic decision because needs may be differ by the sector. The skills needs may differ by the size of the company. So eventually we need to decide what we're going to focus on and what to do. So I always say, we listen, we try our best, but the decision is us. So in that case, educators' view should be a little bit try to go ahead, even like industry needs, because the role is to, of course, to meet the industry needs important, but we need to ensure the good quality of the life of the student or trainers. For this, that's why like core skills or generic skills, foundation skills are very important because this will be the foundation. But also, we need to think about what to be the beyond what industry say now. Of course, it's a difficult task, but I think we should still try. So I really hope educators' view will be a little bit beyond the scope of the immediate industry needs too. Yeah, and then I think this should be still healthy. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for all the answers. I think all panelists have answered questions from Dr. Aniza just now. So since it's about time for us to have lunch, and I think many of them, waiting for the lunch to be served. I think that's all that we have today for these sessions. Thank you very much for these wonderful sessions, Dr. Jasmine, Dr. Junichi, and also Dr. Mas. Thank you, for your inputs and sharing your thoughts on this topic. And also questions from the audience, and also attentions given by from our participants. Thank you very much. So I think that's all. Thank you once again. I hand over the sessions back to the MC. Thank you. Very well moderated.
A remarkable session indeed. In a usual way, I would like to call upon Dr. Hairani to give a gift to all the panelists. Dr. Junichi Mori, Dr. Mas Sahidayana Mokhtar, and Dr. Jasmine Begum. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of a morning session. Thank you again for your active participation. Lunch is served at the foyer. Before that, I have an announcement. Please scan the registration QR code on your table for us to have your attendance today, because we will send a slide through your registration email address. Prayer rooms are located at the lower ground floor at the building on the left.